Stangerella, thank you as well. Deeply appreciate that. It's very, very good to have you both here. Welcome to the stream. We left daylight savings time in Finland so early for me. Oh, congratulations. Y'all do that in Finland as well? I thought that was a North American foolishness. Man, just one of those things where, America and some farmers decided to make the whole world have to go back and forth every now and then. Tech Tink, thank you very much for the tier 1. It's good to have you here. You're welcome. It's the most obvious name. Hey, it's a great name. Who am I? Who am I but to say it? Welcome to the stream, everybody. I hope you found ways to sleep. Like most of you, I did not sleep much this weekend. And yeah, in large part due to all the horrors and atrocities that are going on around the world, all that kind of stuff. But I'm ready. I'm ready to continue to get active and to take action. And we have so many things to talk about. Not only obviously events from around the world, but obviously we're going to be talking a lot about some other big moments. I want to take a quick second to say I love you. Y'all are awesome. I was looking today because I was trying to start a new Tiltify charity stream setup for this Thursday. The Leftist Mafia is going to be fundraising for Palestinian children. And while setting that up, it showed all the other charities that we've run. And we've raised over $70,000 over the course of these Twitch streams for a variety of different places, including one of those streams being for Palestinian relief, another one being for residential school survivors, and the most recent one obviously being for LGBTQ plus refugees globally. We fundraised enough money for one person to be relocated from an area around the world and placed somewhere where they will be safe for who they are and how they are. It's absolutely, it fills my heart to know that it's not just a silly show with cartoon characters and electronic music and dancing and all that kind of stuff. We've been doing some fucking awesome shit. And that's incredible. Y'all should be proud. I posted a picture of it in the Serfs Discord if you want to go check it out. It's awesome. I set up the Tiltify link. We're going to obviously fill it with details and way more information. I wanted to get a landing page, but hey, it's open. You can already check it out. We're going to be filling it up with some Leftist Mafia stuff. This Thursday, we'll do a big charity stream. We'll turn off super chats. All the money is going to be going towards this organization. We won't be touching a single dime of it, and we're very excited for all those things. If you're watching on the Serf Times, hey, hello. We see you. It's wonderful to have you here. And I don't know how much I'm allowed to say in terms of I'm not obviously come watch on Twitch. Twitch is the only place to see the stream. It's hosted on Twitch. Come hang out on Twitch. If you can't do that for whatever reason, well, enjoy, because soon we're going to be broadcasting everywhere simultaneously. We're going to be broadcasting on DLive, on what's the other one, Onion Peel, Slurpity Bop, everywhere where internet rules. Twitch chat will dominate from now on, as I've said before. I think it's one of the requirements to be able to do any of this. So here's looking at you. Your prime time now, Twitch chat. Get used to it. Hope you're excited. Yeah, let's get right into it.
Dateline 2023. The world is ravaged by a plague. No, we're not talking about the Rona. We're talking about the capitalistic death cult that values profits over the long-term health of humanity. What can be done to stop them and save the future of civilization? Find out only on Hard News.
Clean up your room.
Modi Cool, thank you, appreciate you. You're awesome. That's fantastic, and very, very cool of you to use your was that oh, that's just a tier 1. Wow, that's not even a prime. And hey, I should remind you all, if you do have prime, you can connect it to your account and subscribe to the show for free. I gotta move some things around here. Hold on, I gotta apparently take this off. We're gonna take some things off, but bam. We're gonna do this. Actually, you know what? I think this could be fine for today. Hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna roll some dice today. We're figuring things out. Okay, it's a brave new world, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Let me add this. Nope, that's not it. There we go. Change this. I'm organized. I set up the whole thing. Oh yeah. Save them kids convoy. No, you're not being canceled just yet. I got to figure that out. Maybe, I don't know. Technically, if you are using the Serfs.tv, you are watching it on Twitch, because the Serfs TV is hosting the Twitch site, so it's not directing anyone to anywhere else. So I don't think that's technically incorrect. So I think you still get to be on stream for now. I think so. Yeah. Can we get an officially canceled in a Leftist Mafia episode so we can have closure? That would make sense. Yeah, that would make okay. So we'll officially cancel the Serfs TV chat. That we'll do that. But yeah, if you're watching today in two different places of the internet, I mean, obviously I can't direct you to another place, but watching it on Twitch, hey, good to see you. And if you're watching it on another streaming platform, well, that's just what you're doing. I think that's all I can say. Yeah, hi to you know, my Shanty and Spaceboy Digital and everybody, and welcome to the stream. I'm going to start by just quickly mentioning, because it's not going to be getting a lot of coverage, that there's a Take Back Alberta group, and they are they want to, you know, separate Alberta from the rest of the country, and they're doing some shit, and they're kicking out a lot of their top organizers. So the controversial right-wing group Take Back Alberta has removed its top organizers as it restructures and shifts its focus to targeting school boards across Canada. The TPA, which grew out of the Coutts border blockade, organized an insurgency inside the United Conservative Party, announced in former leader Jason Kenney, and installed Danielle Smith in the Premier's office. She's basically Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you didn't know, the Premier of Alberta is Canada's Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's wild. We've incorporated the new not-for-profit, and there's a board of 5 people on that. We've got a normal system of 10 captains, 2 for each regions. So their new target is where they found to have some success, and this is going to continue across the country. They're targeting school boards, and they're trying to say that it's to protect children. They've already had some success in getting people to basically reject the idea that kids should be able to self-identify. So if you're non-binary, if you're trans, and you go to school and you say, hey, my pronouns are they, them, they need your parents' permission to do so. That's the argument, because, you know, obviously they want to find any kind of wedge issue to try and get inside of the culture wars, and they've had a little bit of success at it, and so they're trying to now dominate that part of the culture war. It's obviously disgusting, and they're going to keep doing it, but yeah, it's just what they're up to. Modi Cool, thank you for resubscribing to tier 1. I appreciate that. Appreciate you. It's really scary, by the way. These techniques, when they're tried in one country and they're successful, they're emulated in others. So you can see a lot of the culture war shit that has had failures and success in the United States try to, you know, import its way into Canada. Some of those things have been successful, some of those things have been failures, and then people learn from that, and right-wing movements globally will continue to push for what techniques seem to be effective. And there's no stronger technique, it seems, than trying to basically get in between parents and children, and parents believed autonomy to control whatever their kids do. And in this case, you know, I think it would be, or at least it sounded something, you know, relatively uncontroversial to be like, you should be able to self-identify. You should be able to use whatever pronouns you prefer, because we're human beings who use English, and that's just not that big of an ask. But apparently now this is going to be a thing. So yeah, it sucks. It's going to be obviously exported to other provinces to more or less success. And yeah, keep an eye on it. They're also like, there's also this farm that they're like camping out at. I don't know if everyone's seen the farm. Farmer denies giving the Save the Children convoy land to build a permanent community outside of Ottawa. So that's where they're basically building a fortress, a farm fortress. Chet is apologetic about how he pronounced his words, explaining that his doctors had to remove half of his tongue to stop cancer from spreading. I told him I can't afford to do it. Chet hasn't heard of the Save the Children convoy and doesn't talk politics with his guests, although he's aware that men were camping out on the field at the corner of his farm, maybe 60 or 70 campers. I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't involved with him. I don't know if they're the Freedom Convoy, and to be honest with you, it doesn't matter to me as long as they're not violent people. Chet was unaware his guests have explicitly called for arresting politicians and installing a new government, and that their supporters expressed concerns about potential violence. He's also seemingly unaware that the Save the Children convoy message revolves around anti-LGBTQ plus paranoia and far-right pedophile conspiracies.
We're down here. We got a permanent camp now. We're going to build a community, and we're going to keep pushing forward. So I
suggest
you come on down and check
Maximus.
it out. Yeah, this is the spot. There's going to be warm in the winter, you know, kitchen all built up nice and everything.
Damn, Canada isn't better. No, Canada has fooled all of you, okay? Canada has fooled all of you with its PR. We are the squirrels of countries, okay? Like, when you hear about flying squirrels, you're not like, whoa, flying rodents? You're like, cute. Oh, that's awesome. So that it's kind of like those little backpacks you see in the Mission Impossible movies, you know, when Tom Cruise is like, I haven't done enough stunts yet. I have to run. And like, well, we already have like 40 minutes of you running. Maybe you could do something else. All right, just give me something tall to jump out of. Put me in one of those little squirrel outfits and I'll just shee and then go flying. That's basically Canada. But Canada is, you know, just as shitty and racist as every other country. Yeah, it's just got various forms of healthcare that public healthcare options that the U.S. Doesn't. But yeah, they're still shitty people, and they've got this caravan. They're camping out, and they're ready to, you know, save them kids. By endangering kids, ironically. Yeah, all these banners, like, we're here to save the children, we're doing this because we care, all that kind of stuff. It's just them essentially endangering LGBTQ plus kids and making their lives scarier. Also, if you didn't know, Sarah Jama got ousted from censored by the NDP caucus. She has decided, valiantly, not to simply quit, not to simply walk away from politics. She is now an independent, and that's fucking amazing. I've reached out to their team. I'd love to interview her. She already did an interview the other day with Jeremy Corbyn, slightly higher profile than myself, so that's fine. I understand. You know, you gotta speak to the big names that reach out first. But ideally, one day I'll be able to cover it.
With more calls to reinstate Hamilton Centre MPP Sarah Jama.
And to the people asking in all the chats about Hillary Clinton, yes, I've seen it. I've seen what she said. We're going to play it. And we're going to mock her ruthlessly because, yeah, her fucking... Nothing's changed since 1996, has it, Hillary? Still saying the same fucked up shit, you know? Like, it was really fucked up when you were saying that black kids are super predators and they need to be brought to heel. That's a super fucked up, weird-ass racist statement to make, you know? These aren't just roving members of gangs anymore. They're super predators. It's like, you're talking about youth? Oh, okay, so you're just a wild racist. But yeah, she's kind of just expanded that now into talking about Palestinians and being like, oh, people just don't understand. You know, the Hamas has to be destroyed. It has to be defeated. And, you know, there are multiple people at any time who can become Hamas insurgents. And so we have to wipe them all out. And at this point, if anyone is just, you know, with their own eyes witnessing what is happening in real time, they pretty much can be like, what? Like, are you serious? But there's over 3,000 kids that have been killed. This is just mass bombing campaigns of a largely civilian population. What are you doing here, Hillary? This shit is scary as fuck.
Emma back into the NDP caucus following her removal earlier in the week. A virtual rally in support of her was held today with speakers from all across Canada. Jason Gaidola joins us live tonight with more on this. Good evening, Jason.
Yeah, good evening, Taz. There were many supporters that joined forces today calling for the NDP to reinstate Sarah Jama back into the party. However, so one supporter specifically said that supporters should also reconsider their support for the NDP. However, most others did not go quite that far today. And this is when Marit Stiles was asked yesterday if there was any chance that she would reconsider bringing Sarah Jama back into the party. And this is also following riding associations calling for demanding her to go back into the party, and even one asking her to resign.
Why are people asking for a party who is still treating Jama like this to take her back? Why? I don't understand.
Toronto journalist Desmond Cole believes Hamilton's Sarah Jama should move on as an independent during a virtual rally in support of her.
Let her go and let her say and do the principled things that she was not able to do as a member of the ONDP.
A social media post yesterday shows the Hamilton MPP at her constituency office without the NDP signage on her windows. CHCH News asked about Jama's availability, but was told by supporters at her office that she'll be addressing the public soon. During the webinar, various speakers nationwide called for the Ontario NDP and leader Marit Stiles to bring the Hamilton MPP back into caucus. This echoing riding associations in Hamilton and Kitchener, demanding her reinstatement, a leadership review, and in one case, a resignation from Stiles.
And I do believe that we need to engage with the system to avoid, in all different ways, to avoid a future in which we exist at the margins and we have to fight 1,000 times harder on the street.
We urge the party to make a final effort to repair its relationship with Sarah, Palestinian Ontarians, and all those who stand in solidarity with them, including the working class people of the Hamilton District Labour Council.
On Monday, Stiles says she kicked Jama out of the party after Jama undertook unilateral actions resulting in broken trust and an unsafe work environment. Prior that morning, Jama took to the legislature, calling for a ceasefire and restating her support for Palestinian people. A speech similar to her pinned controversial tweet about the Israel-Hamas war from more than 2 weeks ago.
By the way, the term that was used was controversial. Like, you can read some of it here. The generations-long occupation of Palestine is explained by Michael Link. The UN Special Rapporteur for the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territory is apartheid, i.e. a political regime intentionally prioritizing fundamental political, legal, and social rights to one group over another in the same space on the basis of racial, national, ethnic identity. We are seeing this definition of apartheid in real time through the continued violation of human rights in Gaza, through the use of white phosphorus chemicals, the withholding of access to food, fuel, electricity, and water, and the destruction of the only exit from Gaza that isn't controlled by the state of Israel, the Rafah border. Especially with this context in mind, the news coming out of Israel and Palestine is deeply concerning. For 75 years, violence and retaliation rooted in settler colonialism has taken the lives of far too many innocent people. I call for an immediate ceasefire and de-escalation. We must look to the solution to this endless cycle of death and destruction. End all occupation of Palestinian land and end apartheid. Canada must hold true to its history of peacemaking and refrain from military intervention. My heart genuinely goes out to all those impacted by this and ongoing violence. That was the controversial statement that was like, you need to be censored. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of members of the NDP now are making the same statements. And good. Like, these are the things that should be said by politicians, you know, especially ones that can have influence on a considered political ally, such as Israel, to Canada. So it's yes, absolutely. I'm not here to say that the NDP calling for an immediate ceasefire now, you know, as a party is a bad thing. That is a very good thing. More major political parties should do this. But you can't ignore that you censored a black Muslim woman from your party for saying the same things that you're all saying now, and no one's really standing up for it outside of a handful of MPs who are like, I'm just absolutely disgusted by this, right?
Or from more than 2 weeks ago.
Is there a route back to the party for MPP Jama?
You know, I'm listening to people. I am listening to people and certainly hear their concerns. And I don't think at this exact time there is, but I do hear people.
Yesterday at Queen's Park, Stiles addressed the blowback for the decision to remove Jama and questions on whether caucus supports her. Toronto MPP Jill Andrew also posted her disapproval.
You know, the question is this a bunch of people who are upset, but who ultimately don't have another political vehicle that's viable to them. It's not like they're going to jump to the Liberals, for instance, on this issue.
McMaster political science professor Peter Graves says there are questions on how much support Stiles could lose.
In a way, Marit Stiles does have the ability to lose these people with the sense that they might well come back at some point in the future.
Also last Thursday, Sarah Jama's lawyer sent out a cease and desist letter to Premier Doug Ford's office where they claimed that, or accused them of making defamatory comments about Jama. Now, they also asked for an apology and a retraction within 7 days or face a potential libel lawsuit. Today is day 8, and we did reach out to her lawyer today, and we've yet to hear back.
I really hope she goes through with it. And I hope she's victorious. I hope all that happens. All right, it's time for a honest government ad. She is suing Doug Ford, who claimed that she was being, I forget how he put it, deeply anti-Semitic and filled with hate for the statements that she had made.
Hello, I'm from the government with an important Announcement. Have you been getting the feeling lately that everything is going to shit? Don't worry, you're not imagining it. Scientists have coined a new term for the era we're living through, the enshittenment. When the enshittenment began is unclear. Evidence suggests probably around the time agriculture was adopted, but there is now a clear consensus that it is human-caused and rapidly accelerating. Watching everything go to shit everywhere at the same time can be overwhelming. That's why we're launching a new service to help keep you up to date. Where's humanity going to shit now? In today's episode of Where's Humanity Going to Shit Now, we look at Israel and Gaza, where a bunch of angry old fuckwits are massacring civilians and children as the world watches on. Humanity has clearly gone to shit here, and that's because one of the symptoms of enshittenment is the inability to hold more than one truth in the brain at the same time. In this case, 3 truths. 1. Hamas's attack on civilians in Israel is fucked and a violation of international law. 2. Israel's collective punishment of civilians in Gaza is fucked and a violation of international law. And 3. Both 1 and 2 are happening in the context of an occupation which is fucked and in violation of international law. Failure to hold these 3 truths at the same time has been linked to uncritical.
I swear, Pierce Morgan's brain just like imploded, you know, into a million different little bizarre particles of confusion. But you condemn Hamas, right? Like, do you? Does everyone? Do I? Dave Myers, thank you very much for resubscribing.
Exposure of the brain to bullshit
With the message, "Free
propaganda, of
Palestine."
which we in the media are primary disseminators. Bullshit propaganda has of course been the cause of every major war this century, and is thus one of the pillars of the age of enshittenment. The good news is, experts regard this case of enshittenment as being avoidable, as demonstrated by all the people calling for an immediate end to the murder of children, and to angry old fucks who stoke conflict, and for us to uphold international law everywhere, not just where it suits us. Join us next week for another episode of Where's Humanity Going to Shit Now, where we look at the coming US election. This has been a message from your local government franchise. Good luck.
If you enjoyed that video, you can share it with your friends. It's the Juice Media, and then I'll give you the link right here if you like their work. They make a lot of videos like this. If you're wondering what the technique is, they're basically doing dubbing over, and that's what makes it have that particular flair. So there's that. I want to quickly talk about this incident that occurred. Putin calls meeting after mob storms Dagestan airport looking for Israelis on jet from Tel Aviv. Russian President Vladimir Putin called a meeting of security and law enforcement officials Monday, the day after a mob stormed the airport in southwest region of Dagestan after a flight from Israel landed there. And what do you know? Putin has a problem with people and suddenly anti-Semitism? Russian President Vladimir Putin called a meeting of security and law enforcement officials Monday, the day after a mob stormed the airport in the southern region of Dagestan after a flight from Israel landed there. Now, I'm going to quickly get ahead of this. I do not believe anyone should be conflating all Jewish people with Israel. I think doing so is itself anti-Semitic. However, this was certainly an anti-Semitic rally because of the banners that they had that had a lot of anti-Semitic shit on them. So, as I've said before, anti-Semites, most of the time, they're very loud and vocal about their anti-Semitism and hatred. They're, you know, Nick Fuentes isn't sitting there quietly positioning, you know, an octopus plushie in the corner before he sits there and talks about how he thinks, you know, some things are complicated. He shits there, he shits there too, but he sits there rallying and just fucking spewing vile anti-Semitism from his mouth. Hundreds of angry men, some carrying banners with anti-Semitic slogans, rushed to the tarmac at the airport of Makakala? Alright, I gotta learn how to pronounce this. Hold on one sec. Ounce.
Махачкала. Махачкала.
Махачкала. Махачкала.
Махачкала.
Machachkala. At the airport of Makhachkala, the capital predominantly Muslim region, on Sunday night, looking for Israeli passengers on the flights from Tel Aviv, according to Russian news reports. More than 20 people were injured, 2 in critical condition. Dagestan's health ministry said the injured include police officers and civilians. At least 60 people were detained in the arrest, the local interior ministry said. Russia has issued carefully calibrated criticism of both sides in the war between Israel and Hamas, enlightened centrism, a conflict that has given Moscow new opportunities to advance its role as a global power broker and challenge Western efforts to isolate it over Ukraine. The crowd that rushed into the tarmac Sunday night surrounded the jet belonging to the Russian carrier Red Wings with seemingly little resistance from the police, Russian news outlets reported. Video and photos on social media showed the crowd waving Palestinian flags, some trying to overturn a police car, others held handwritten banners saying child killers are not welcome in Dagestan and were against Jewish refugees. There were also shouts of some of the crowd were also seen roaming the terminal, examining passports of arriving passengers, apparently in an attempt to identify those who were Israeli. The riot was later broken up. I've already forgotten. Makhachkala. Hold on.
Makhachkala.
The Makhachkala airport resumed operations at 2 p.m. Monday, Russian Civil Aviation Authority said. Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the security meetings will discuss attempts by the West to use the events in the Middle East to divide Russian society. Yeah, that's what's happening. It is well known and obvious that yesterday's event around, like, everyone is in one way or another trying to make this about themselves. You know, it doesn't matter if it's streamers all the way over to world leaders in one way or another. Well, this is clearly an attempt to destabilize our region. That's all we can say. Well, you know, normally if I'm talking about Canadian news, I'd be talking about hockey. This isn't Canadian news, though. This is a horrifying tragedy that occurred. So, if you don't know, there was a hockey player who paid for the Penguins. That same hockey player was playing for a European team and it was involved in an incident that unfortunately has resulted in death. Anti-Semites and far-right grifters have glommed onto the tragic death of Adam Johnson, accusing the player who accidentally collided with him of murder and manslaughter because, well, he's black. And you might see today, if you were looking at right-wing Twitter, you might see a lot of people saying a whole bunch of shit. A lot of shit. They never talk about hockey, but right now a lot of right-wingers are very concerned about hockey and talking about it. And yeah, the racism is fucking palpable. And Wokeness says, NHL player Adam Johnson died on TV after Matt Petgrave slashed his throat with a skate. Slashed his throat. Petgrave has a history of bad behavior, including racking up the most penalty minutes and getting booted out of games. The media quickly declared it a total accident, but many viewers and expert hockey players are not convinced. What do you think? Watch the slowed down clip. Did he intentionally murder someone? Matt Petgrave is straight up a murderer. He literally roundhouse kicks the guy with the skate, slashing his throat and killing him on the ice. Matt Petgrave needs to be charged with manslaughter. This should be manslaughter at the minimum. Matt Petgrave clearly knew what he was doing. I saw the footage and immediately thought of hockey incidents similar to this with Clint Marlishuk and Richard Zednik. Matt Petgrave appears to try and cross-check an entirely different player. He loses his balance and crashes into Adam Johnson. These reactions are insane, says Matt Binder. It's not going to stop people who, again, I guess never watch hockey at all, but suddenly, are interested in this. All right. Israel has killed 4 kids in 3 weeks. Oops. Well, that's certainly not fitting in the. Yeah, there's a title. Over just a 3-week period, the Israeli military has killed at least 3,195 children in the Gaza Strip, a death toll that surpasses the annual number of children killed in all the world's armed conflict zones since 2019. That's according to a disturbing new analysis by Save the Children, which observed that kids make up more than 40% of the death toll in the Gaza Strip since October 7th, when Hamas launched a deadly attack on Israel that was met with a massive bombing campaign and an intensifying ground attack. The humanitarian group noted that according to the United Nations, at least 1,000 Gazan children have been reported missing and may be trapped under rubble, meaning the reported death toll is almost certainly an underestimate. UNICEF have called the child deaths in Gaza a growing stain on our collective conscience and demanded a ceasefire. Save the Children did the same on Sunday. Jason Lee, Save the Children's country director, for the occupied Palestinian territories said in a statement, 3 weeks of violence have ripped children from families and torn through their lives at an unimaginable rate. The numbers are harrowing, and with the violence not only continuing but expanding in Gaza right now, many more children remain at grave risk. One child's death is too many, but these grave violations are of epic proportions. A ceasefire is the only way to ensure their safety. The international community must put people first before politics. Every day spent debating is leaving children killed and injured. Children must be protected at all times, especially when they are seeking safety in schools and hospitals. Save the Children cities or cites the most recent 3 annual reports from the UN Secretary General, which have found 2,985 children were killed across 24 countries in this year, 2,515 were killed in 2021, and 2,674 were killed in 2020. More than 4,000 children were killed in all global conflicts since 2019. The group's analysis was released days after it warned that Israel's expanded ground assault on the Gaza Strip has put children at heightened risk for the loss of life, physical harm, severe emotional distress, and protracted displacement. Israeli troops and tanks advanced towards Gaza City on Monday, blocked one of the main roads connecting with the northern part of Gaza Strip to the south, the Wall Street Journal reported, a major advance that appeared aimed at encircling the enclave's biggest population center. More than 1 million Gazans have already been displaced by Israeli airstrikes before the country launched its fresh ground attack late last week. Israeli bombings have also destroyed or damaged at least 45% of Gaza's housing units. On Friday, as Israel ruthlessly bombed northern Gaza and knocked out the territory's internet and communications, a Save the Children team member in Gaza warned this message: "We could all die. We could survive. We could survive. We could. Please pray for us." Save the Children said later in the day that it lost contact with its team on the ground. "This is pure horror for all the children and their parents," Lee said Friday. Across the Gaza Strip, more than 1 million children are trapped in the middle of an active conflict zone with no safe place to go and no route to safety. With communications down, children are cut off from the world, more isolated than ever before. They are unable to speak to their loved ones or even call an ambulance. Despite Save the Children and thousands of other voices calling for an urgent ceasefire, we are seeing an increase in military operations. We call on all parties of the conflict to take immediate steps to protect the lives of children and on international communities to support those efforts, as is their obligation. Also, Al Jazeera shocked and outraged by these Israeli threats towards Al Jazeera English journalist Yumna El-Sid and her family in the Gaza Strip. Al Jazeera is shocked and outraged by the Israeli threat towards Al Jazeera English journalist Yumna El-Sayed and her family in the Gaza Strip. Her family received a threat claiming to be from Israeli forces, forcing them to leave their homes, as the area where the journalist resides is currently under heavy Israeli bombardment. This vile threat comes only a few days after the indiscriminate killings of the family of Al Jazeera channel's journalist Awel al-Daru, who was asked to move south before being bombed. Israel's actions continue with impunity as they attempt to silence the messenger. 29 journalists have been killed since the start of the war in Gaza. Al Jazeera strongly condemns these acts of violence and calls on international institutions to intervene and protect journalists and all innocent civilians. Ryan Grimm reporting 1,418 children under the age of 9 were killed as of last Thursday in the bombing. That's before the internet went out. The vast majority of these kids were never allowed to leave Gaza in their lives. No field trips to Jerusalem, no visit to relatives on holidays in the West Bank. Our analysis of the Gaza mortality rate shows that few of the victims can have been combatants. The modest excess of adult males killed can be explained by the greater exposure to risk and rescue efforts. These IDF attacks are overwhelming and unforgivably on citizens, which is the unfortunate reality on the ground. Every single recipient of Canada's humanitarian aid to Gaza is pushing for an immediate ceasefire. Several recipients have been directly targeted in Israeli attacks. Canada must listen to the appeals from its partners and finally withdraw its support for Israel's murderous war. And this is a statement. So a lot of the organizations, what do we have here? They've announced $60 million in humanitarian aid to Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. An initial portion has been allocated to the Canadian Red Cross, UNICEF, the United Nations Relief Program, the World Health Organization. They note that every one of these recipients is calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, which Canada has repeatedly failed to support. Canada has pledged up to $10 million in matching funds for Humanitarian Coalition, whose members include World Vision, Islamic Relief, Save the Children, Oxfam, and more. The coalition has been calling for an immediate ceasefire, noting humanitarian workers cannot operate safely under bombing campaigns and military strikes. So the very organizations that Canada is trying to do, like Trudeau is doing just the most disgusting fucking progressive liberal posturing right now, where he will say on one breath, I'm deeply concerned for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Guess what? We're going to be matching donations up to $10 million. If anyone wants to donate money, we're going to match you. But unfortunately, a lot of that life-saving supplies and aid cannot get through in the blockade of all life-saving supplies and aid right now. Very, very little is actually getting through. So it's all posturing while they justify also sending money to Israel. It's absolutely disgusting. You're seeing the same thing being done by Joe Biden as well. And it's also the same justification that a lot of liberals I find are using to basically claim morality for their support in this campaign, which by any measure, I don't understand how anyone can witness what is happening and still continue to claim that this is simply in order to defeat terrorism. And, you know, we're essentially recycling a lot of the same talking points that we were using post 9/11. I saw some younger people on Twitter saying, like, the difference now is that, like, you know, people are protesting, there's global protests, people are taking to the streets and stuff like that. It's like, they were doing that before the Iraq invasion. There was global protests. There were millions of people protesting. You know, the United States did not listen to the will of a lot of the people around the world and continued on with this mission to, again, defeat terrorism, save the world from Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction, and whatever came afterwards is just a matter for the textbooks at this point. I don't know why I'm being blocked, or maybe it has something. It's probably on my end. From Haaretz? Yeah, I don't know why. Either way, the same article. Haaretz reported on this, but the same article you can see here at 972. Massive protests, like the largest anti-war protests in history. Yeah, they were monstrous, you know? Trudeau's just like a streamer now. Yeah, I know. It's true. An intelligence ministry document revealed the local call 972 shows how the idea of population transfer to the Sinai is reaching official discussions. The Israeli Ministry of Intelligence is recommending the forcible and permanent transfer of the Gaza Strip's 2.2 million Palestinian residents to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, according to the official document revealed in full for the first time, thanks to 972's partner site, Local Call, yesterday. The 10-page document, dated October 13, 2023, bears the logo of the Intelligence Ministry, a small government body that produces policy research and shares its proposals with intelligence agencies, the army, and other ministries. It accesses 3 options regarding the future of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in the framework of the current war, and recommends a full population transfer as its preferred course of action. It also calls on Israel to enlist the international community in support for this endeavor. The document, whose authenticity was confirmed by the ministry, has been translated in English in full here. The existence of the document does not necessarily indicate that its recommendations are being considered by Israel's defense establishment. Despite its name, the intelligence ministry is not directly responsible for any intelligence body, but rather independently prepared studies and policy papers that are distributed to the Israeli government and security agencies for review, but are not binding. The ministry's annual budget for the NIS, $25 million, and its influence is considered relatively small. It's currently headed by Gil Gamliel, a member of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party. However, the fact that the Israeli government ministry has prepared such a detailed proposal amid a large-scale military offensive on the Gaza Strip following Hamas's deadly assault and massacres in the southern Israeli communities on October 7th reflects how the idea of forced population transfer is being raised to the level of official policy discussion. Fears of such plans, which would constitute a serious war crime under international law, have grown in recent weeks, especially after the Israeli army ordered about 1 million Palestinians to evacuate the northern Gaza Strip ahead of escalated bombardment and incremental ground incursions. The document recommends that Israel act to, quote, evacuate the civilian population to Sinai during the war, establish tent cities and later more permanent cities in northern Sinai that will absorb the expelled population, and then create a, quote, sterile zone of several kilometers within Egypt and prevent the return of the population to activities and residencies near the border with Israel. At the same time, governments around the world, led by the United States, must be mobilized to implement the move. A source in the Intelligence Ministry confirmed to Local Call 72 that the document was authentic and had been distributed to the defense establishment by the ministry's policy division, and it was not supposed to reach the media. Make it clear there's no hope for returning. The document unequivocally and explicitly recommends transferring Palestinian civilians from Gaza as the desired outcome of the war. The existence of the plan was first reported last week in the Israeli business newspaper Calculus, and the full text of the document is published and translated here. The transfer plan is divided into several stages. The first stage, action will be taken so the population in Gaza evacuates south, while the airstrikes focus on northern Gaza Strip. In the second stage, a ground incursion into Gaza will begin, leading to the occupation of the entire strip from the north to the south and cleansing of the underground bunkers of the Hamas fighters. Concurrently with the reoccupation of Gaza, Palestinian civilians will be moved into Egyptian territory and not be allowed to return. It is important to leave the travel routes to the south open to enable the evacuation of the civilian population towards the Rafah, the document states. According to official in the Intelligence Ministry, the ministry's personnel stand behind these recommendations. The source stressed that the ministry's research is not based on military intelligence and serves only as a basis for discussions within the government. The document proposes promoting a campaign targeting Palestinian civilians in Gaza and will motivate them to accept this plan and lead to them to give up their land. The messages should revolve around the loss of land, making it clear that there's no hope for returning to the territories Israel will soon occupy, whether or not that is true. The images need to be, Allah made sure that you lose this land because of Hamas leadership. There's no choice but to move to another place with the assistance of your Muslim brothers, the document reads. In addition, the document encourages the government to lead the public campaign in the Western world to promote the transfer plan in a way that does not incite or vilify Israel. This would be done by presenting the expulsion of the Gaza population as a humanitarian necessity to win over international support, by arguing that the relocation will lead to, quote, fewer casualties among civilian populations compared to the expected casualties if the population remains. The document also says the United States should be enlisted in the process to exert pressure on Egypt to absorb the Palestinian residents of Gaza, and that other European countries, particularly Greece and Spain, as well as Canada, should help absorb and settle the Palestinian refugees. Now, outside of the absolute criminality of such a suggestion and a potential, policy being enacted, the one thing I will agree is that, yes, Canada should absolutely step up and allow any Palestinian refugees who need to enter the country in the same way they did to Ukrainian refugees. Once, the illegal invasion of Ukraine occurred by Vladimir Putin, Canada opens doors. It had a policy where any Ukrainian seeking refuge could come to Canada, I believe immediately, even without a working visa. A similar system should be enacted. I don't see why it wouldn't be, especially when Canada is far more responsible for what is happening to Palestinians in Gaza than it is for what is happening to Ukrainians at the hands of Russia. That's, obviously something that they should step up. Last week, the Misgav Institute, a right-wing think tank headed by the Meir Ben Shabbat, a close associate of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and a former head of Israel's National Security Council, published a position paper that similarly called for the forced transfer of Gaza's population to the Sinai. The Institute recently deleted the post from Twitter and from its website after drawing strong international censure. The deleted study was written by Amir Whiteman, a Likud activist, and according to sources familiar with him, a close associate of the intelligence minister, Gilad Gamil. Last week, the Facebook page named the plan to rehabilitate Gaza in Egypt. The solution you propose to move the population to Egypt is a logical and necessary solution. This is not only the connection between the Likud, the Ministry of Intelligence, and the right-wing think tank. About a month ago, the Ministry of Intelligence pledged the transfer of about NIS 1 million from its budget to the Misgav Institute to conduct research on Arab communities. If the Misgav Institute is somehow involved in drafting the ministry's Gaza transfer recommendations, its logo, at least, does not appear in the document. Sources in the Ministry of Intelligence said the Gaza report was an independent study conducted by the ministry's policy division without the cooperation of an external party, but they did confirm that the ministry has recently begun working for the Misgav Institute, stressing that the government body works in various research groups with diverse political agendas. The Misgav Institute has not yet responded to queries for this article. In addition, the intelligence ministry document was first leaked in a small internet WhatsApp group of right-wing activists, together with the Likud advocate Whiteman, to promote the re-establishment of Israeli settlements in the Gaza Strip and the transfer of Palestinians living there. If this policy is being followed to the letter, then it's basically laying out a plan, which again, this is not official, as this article is very clear to point out at the very beginning. This is not an official government policy. This is a recommendation by an Israeli think tank on how to proceed. And as far as the actions that have been taking place on the ground, it would seem that a lot of these steps are being taken so far, because no one has really answered the question, what comes next? Like, myself and everyone right now is demanding a ceasefire in the strongest possible terms to end the bloodshed of a large percentage of civilians and half a population that is children who are being starved. As soon as this began, this conflict, post October 7th, this current campaign, even if you are to take out all of the historical context, we're just going to say history began on October 7th with the terrifying attack by Hamas, and then afterwards, this is response, when one of the first actions that was taken was to deprive a population of food, of water, of medicine, and fuel. That should have been enough for any rational and moral Western ally at that point to say, well, we condemn this. These are war crimes of the tallest order. Half that population, the 2.2 million people, are children. Half of them are children. You can't starve civilian populations as an effective combat method This is clearly in violation of every international law that we put in place for this kind of shit. This is horrifying. I want no part of this. But instead, we got the exact opposite, right? We got, Joe Biden traveling to Israel, meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. We had a pledge, of course, that Israel has a right to defend itself, and every other Western nation saying and echoing the same thing, including Justin Trudeau. And now at this point that we've seen just the incredible toll and horrors that before us, ideas like this, what happens afterwards? Honestly, what is the next step? Because we've all seen the satellite photos at this point. There are entire areas that are gone, not like you can see destruction, but there's nothing there, just blocks and blocks of nothing but dust. Is there going to be a rebuilding effort? Is there going to be we now need to reestablish the homes, 42% of which have been destroyed or damaged, according to assessments, 42%. 42% of all the homes where people were living, destroyed or damaged at this point. Is the plan that's now new territory for Israel? That all of that damage and destruction has increased the range in which Israelis will have to rebuild a wall around it? Because if that is the case, people really need to, people keep saying that Western media just really seems confused, I was like, no, Western media is towing the line. They're doing what they've always done. So are a lot of mainstream US politicians. It's just, you now have more access than ever before to tons of people on the ground with cell phones who can then upload those videos, and those videos can get shared on social media. So you at home get to have an experience like never before in a conflict like this, where you are seeing firsthand what is really happening. And when you do, it's really hard to turn off your fucking humanity. When you see all this kind of footage, when you see this death and destruction, when you see just the endless piles of children, bodies wrapped up, it's a lot harder to be like, but this is to defeat terrorism, right? It's war. The costs will be high, but again, and it's not like people aren't brainwashed by that. Anytime I post about this on Twitter, it just floods with replies of people being like, "This is war. Release the hostages." Yeah, this is war. War is ugly. Oh, it's the serfs learning what war is for the first time. I was like, how can you call this a war? Genuinely. Because every day, it's like another area has been leveled to dust, literal dust. Thousands upon thousands of people are currently struggling under rubble, if not already dead. No one has time to mourn because they're constantly worried about being bombed themselves. Hospitals that still exist, the few that do, are turning into giant morgues because, again, they don't have fuel to be able to save lives. They don't have medicine. They don't have painkillers for every single person who has crushed bones and skin and burns and all that kind of stuff, including children. They've run out of that kind of stuff. Doctors are drinking IV bags because they don't have enough water. You can't keep lying about this. And by you, I mean the Western media. And so much of mainstream media is consistently pushing this narrative, as are a lot of US politicians and Canadian politicians, that this is, again, in order to defeat Hamas. In order to defeat Hamas. Hamas is under the Al-Shifa hospital, apparently. That we've seen the video footage. It's in 3D. Wouldn't you know it? And it shows you that while there's a hospital on top, that's what they want you to think, as soon as you get down, we have an Osama bin Laden style tunnel that goes deep down, and then boom, this entire massive nest of a whole bunch of Hamas fighters, organizers, planners, all getting ready to do attacks. Unfortunately, while there are, thousands of injured and dying civilians above them, Hamas is, again, using them all as human shields in this. The chances of fully implementing such a plan, which would amount to the total ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip, are negligible in many respects. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has declared that he strongly opposes opening the Rafah crossing to absorb the Palestinian population from Gaza. He argued that the displacement of Palestinians to the Sinai would threaten Israeli peace with Egypt, and warned that it would lead to Palestinians using Egyptian territory as a base to continue armed confrontation with Israel. A similar plan presented in the past to Israeli officials until now, too, had not matured into a serious policy discussion. So, yeah, The idea being, like, if we can forcibly displace them because of how horrifying these bombing campaigns are going to be, then they'll simply take the Rafah border crossing, go into Egypt, and then they won't be here anymore. And so problem solved. And that's not a possibility. So to all of the ghouls who are constantly saying, like, well, they should leave, they've been given fair warning, just move. And it's like, move where? Where?
Clean up your room.
Into the desert? Is that what your proposal is? Move with what? What supplies? They're cut off from everything. Like, where are they supposed to go? Lurgoifina, thank you very much. Left is best. Thanks for the work you do, Lance. I appreciate it. Dave Myers, thank you very much for subscribing as well. Appreciate both of you. Thank you. The Secular Talk Times, Surf Talk, Secular Surf Times, watching 2 videos is a brain overload. Well, I think everybody should just be simultaneously watching as many streams as possible. That's the only way to do things nowadays. Just have 20 streams running, and then whichever one entertains you the most, that's the one who gets the volume. Finally, the document notes that large-scale migration of non-combatants from combat zones is a natural and sought-off outcome that has occurred in Syria, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, concluding the only expulsion of the Palestinian population will constitute an appropriate response that will enable the creation of significant deterrence in the entire region. The document presents 2 other options regarding what to do with the residents of Gaza the day after the war. The first is to allow the Palestinian Authority, headed by the Fatah Party in the occupied West Bank, to rule Gaza under Israeli auspices. The second is to cultivate another local Arab authority as an alternative to Hamas. Both options, the document claims, are undesirable for Israel from a strategic and security perspective, and will not provide a sufficient message to deterrence, especially to Hezbollah and Lebanon. The authors of the study also noted that bringing the PA into Gaza was the most dangerous option of the 3 because it could lead to the establishment of a Palestinian state. The division between the Palestinian population in Judea and Samaria and Gaza is one of the main obstacles today, preventing the establishment of a Palestinian state. It is inconceivable that the outcome of this attack will be unprecedented victory for the Palestinian national movement and a path to the creation of a Palestinian state, the document said. The document further argues that a model for Israeli military rule and the PA civilian rule as exists in the West Bank is likely to fail in Gaza. There's no way to maintain an effective military occupation in Gaza only on the basis of military presence without Israeli settlements, and within a short time there will be internal Israeli and international pressure for withdrawal. The authors added that such a situation, the state of Israel, will be considered a colonial power with an occupying army similar to the current situation in Judea and Samaria, but even worse. They noted that the PA has low legitimacy amongst Palestinian Republic, and that based on Israel's previous experience of handing over control of Gaza to the PA and Hamas' eventual takeover, Israel should not repeat the same mistakes that led to the current situation. Now Hillary has opinions. Oh, Jake Toady, I didn't. Well, thank you for clearing that up.
People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in, but that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.
Totally unrelated, but I don't know if you've seen this. In 1996, this is what Hillary Clinton said about black American teenagers and children.
100,000 police, we're moving in that direction, but we can see it already makes a difference. Because if we have more police interacting with people, having them on the streets, we can prevent crimes. We can prevent petty crimes from turning into something worse. But we also have to have an organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Not just gangs of kids anymore. Not your fucking grandmother's kids, I tell ya. Yeah, these new ones, they're super predators. That's right.
No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
Interesting. Let's see what John Fetterman has to say.
Why aren't you supporting a humanitarian ceasefire?
No, I'm with the team. If you'd like, I can talk to you. No, I can talk to. I voted for him. I'm sorry, this is a democracy. It absolutely is. Yeah, but kind of, sort of. 10,000 people in Gaza have been killed. Half are children. The Pope's calling for a ceasefire. The UN has called for it. I'm just asking you. You're a good guy. I voted for you. I know you're a nice guy. This is important. You need to leave. Here, can I give you a phone?
Well, it was a democracy. I guess not anymore. How dare you ask questions? I mean, that seems like a physical encounter at this point. You're just being forcibly pushed away. And again, not even asking controversial questions. He was basically like, why haven't you called for a ceasefire? It's something the UN is asking for. It's something that every major, charity organization that deals with children in Gaza is calling for immediately. Why aren't you echoing their sentiments? And then, silence! Get him out of here.
He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him. He just assaulted him. He was just talking to him. He's assaulted him.
My senator. It's like it's his senator too. He just said he voted for him, And he's like, I voted for the guy. I just want to ask him a question. Why aren't you asking for a ceasefire? When again, this is something that gives. It's like, most organizations are calling for. Especially those that deal directly with the impacts of, devastating war crimes. They're the ones calling for it. The UN, the United Nations. I mean, most countries just voted on it. Not Canada. Canada abstained because they're spineless cowards. But a lot of countries did just vote for that resolution. And what do you have to say about that? Meanwhile, Joe Biden is taking important plans. Biden saving America. Here we go, Joe. What you got? Biden administration unveils new action to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. Among other actions, the federal government will partner with campus law enforcement agencies to attack hate-related rhetoric online. Joe Biden's new plan has Homeland Security partnering with local law enforcement to track hate-related rhetoric online. More policing and surveillance will not keep anyone safe. We'll see about that. That remains to be seen. I'm sure you've all heard about Al-Shifa Hospital. The reason I'm bringing it up is that we recently got a video directly, I believe. It was Benjamin Netanyahu who posted it on Twitters about how Al-Shifa Hospital, according to evidence presented in a 3D graphics, Toy Story quality graphics, the original, not 3, the first one. If you scroll down, you can see that while it does look on the surface to be a hospital, directly below it is a Hamas stronghold. And so this is a person who works at the hospital as a volunteer to discuss why that's not true.
I will ask President Netanyahu to put on the table the proofs and the evidence that there is a control and command center for the Palestinian resistance in Shifa Hospital. We have heard these claims since 2009. We have twice been threatened to leave Shifa Hospital in 2009 and 2014 because the Israelis were going to bomb it because it was a command center. Now, I have been working in Shifa for 16 years on and off, in very hectic periods. I've been able to walk freely around. I take lots of pictures, I video film. I've been sleeping in the hospital during bombardment. I've been all over. I've never been restricted, controlled. Nobody has ever controlled my picture and documentation material. So, well, if there is a command center, show us. You have pictures and X-ray films of all Gaza, all the tunnels, everything. So why is it that these 16 years of threats that Shifa is a command center has not been given any evidence at all that it de facto is? Now, if it was a military command center, I would not work there because I obey to the Geneva Convention, number one. Number two, if the Israelis claim that this is a mixed military-civilian target, because obviously it is civilian, with tens of thousands of people gathering there and 2,000 patients being treated. If it is a mixed military-civilian target, the civilian precautions take priority over the military. So in accordance with the Geneva Convention, you can't bomb hospitals unless they have very clear military functions. So to me, this is all part of this immense
Yeah, no, he must not have seen the model.
Intimidation of the Palestinian people in Gaza. They are threatened with leaflets from the planes and the helicopters. They're threatened by phone calls. They're threatened by, you know, if you stay in northern Gaza now, we define you as a terrorist. What is this? 2023, 2.5 million, 2.2 million people, civilian, unarmed people being killed. A child killed every 10 minutes. So far today, the number of killed Palestinian children is 3,324, and there are missing 2,062 Palestinian children in Gaza. That's 5,300 Palestinian children killed in 3 weeks. And I asked President Biden, what kind of president are you? And the vice president, do you have children? Do you accept that this is a war? Do you accept that your supported Israeli army is killing by the thousands children? For heaven's sake, let's have a ceasefire. Let's lift the siege of Gaza. Let's let in supplies and international teams to work. My colleagues are overburdened. They have worked night and day for 3 weeks now. This has to stop. I don't need to use the word genocide. It's enough to say mass murder of civilians. It has to stop.
That is a doctor working at Al-Shifa Hospital stating very clearly that it is not a Hamas stronghold, and that the work that they are doing there is incredibly critical, and they are overworked. I can't imagine what it's like to be a doctor right now operating in that region of the world. I mean, let's be clear, okay? I'm a guy who talks on the internet. I can't imagine what it's like to be a doctor, period. And I have friends who are nurses, and I saw how much their lives were affected by, say, just COVID, and just having just enormous amounts of death occurring at their hands every single day, and having to deal with fucking assholes who in one end were like, oh, well, you know, is it made up? Is government really telling the truth? All that kind of shit. Meanwhile, they're like, it's real. It's very real. There are lots of people dying. Please wear masks, social distance, all that kind of stuff. This is just horrors beyond imagination. To have to work in these conditions, and while you're working in these conditions, know that you are now being targeted as a Hamas stronghold. While you were like, we're literally, you know, there are thousands of people here that require our very essential work. Please don't do this. Ion Belara, Spain's Minister of Social Rights. I'm going to read it out. Today we are all here accompanying the people of our country, and also all of those throughout Europe who are demanding that this planned genocide, this ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people done by the State of Israel, end once and for all. We think that all European leaders, including ours, are not up to the task of the grasp the severity of the circumstances. We do not want to be complicit of this planned genocide, and we think that Europe has to act urgently. I think that Europe is going to pay dearly, very dearly, for this hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of preaching human rights around the world, and then when you have to stand up for them, when you have to live up to them, we do absolutely nothing. Citizens are stunned, seeing how the entire position of the European Union is subordinated in the interests of the United States and the State of Israel. We can do something, and we can do it today. Suspend relationships, diplomatic relations with Israel, apply exemplary economic sanctions against Netanyahu and the entire political leadership, also carry out an arms embargo, and of course, bring Netanyahu before the International Criminal Court so that he can be tried for what he is, a war criminal. I insist, not with our silence and not with our complicity. We need the European Union act. The Anti-Defamation League says this temporarily removed the anti-LGBTQ plus hate account, libs of TikTok. If you didn't see this. Libs of TikTok was originally registered by the AADL as a potential violent extremist. and HARASSMENT threatened legal action. Didn't actually follow through with it. It was just the threat. That was enough. But the Anti-Defamation League says it has temporarily removed the anti-LGBTQ plus hate account of Libs of TikTok from its glossary after the account's owner, HARASSMENT, threatened legal action. Bending the knee to empty legal threats is a great way to get more legal threats and surrender control of your organization to outrage baitmongers, which is true, says Jared Holt. Meanwhile, ADL has also stated it's clear that the hardened anti-Zionists from the far left are the photo inverse of the white supremacists from the far right. There is no argument anymore that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I mean, that is plain as day.
About what's going to happen to us right here in this country.
Jonathan, you and I spoke for a special that we did last year on growing anti-Semitism in America, and you described the extremism on the right as like a hurricane or a tornado and some kind of event that happens very quickly and you can see it. And the anti-Semitism on the left, more like climate change, which is slow and growing. How would you describe it now? And do you think that this is a left-right issue at this point?
Look, it's clear that the hardened anti-Zionists are from the far left are the photo inverse of the white supremacists from the far right. And I mean, there is no argument anymore that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I mean, that is as plain as day. And to think that extremism only comes from one side of the spectrum is a joke. So when I used to say that the anti-Semitism from the left, Anna, was like climate change, getting worse and worse, and it could create the conditions in which storms could happen, this is that Category 5 hurricane. When Jewish people are being told to avoid kosher dining halls because other students want to, quote, slit their throat. Yeah. Look, Dana, this is
doing that and directly targeting people specifically for being Jewish, then yeah, they're disgusting ass anti-Semites. They should be called out for the racist pieces of shit they are. If you are trying to oppose an ethnic cleansing of a civilian population on the behalf of a government, what does that have to do with the two? I think directly correlating the two is grossly offensive. I'm being told all the time, by the way, by a lot of these outlets at this moment in history that there's, you know, the far left is the ones that are actually now the real racists, and they're the ones who are the true anti-Semites, and people who oppose this, who stand in solidarity with Palestinian Free Palestine rallies, for example, are promoting hate and stuff. Like, my heart is overflowing. I'm just in awe of all the organizations led predominantly by Jewish members right now who are leading a lot of these protests. Yes, Jewish Voices for Peace, if not now, .org, who are, you know, getting arrested in real time, putting themselves, risking criminal records to stand and oppose this. It's absolutely inspiring to see on a regular basis just how many thousands upon thousands of people, especially led again by Jewish people, directly calling for an end to this. Their bravery is just absolutely awe-inspiring. It's the only words I have for it. And I've heard so many people from different communities who are saying and speaking out about this, how they're being ostracized from their families. As a result, they have so much more risk in letting their voices be heard than someone like me. Again, like my risks at being ostracized by my family for speaking out for this are not in any way comparable. They're not even close. It doesn't even come. I don't even experience that, right? Like, look at Lol Overruled, who has been at the forefront of promoting so much of this stuff online and posting so many of these posts. The other day he made a post where it was like, I'm getting a lot of anger and hatred from a lot of family members for the things that I've been saying, and that has to be so fucking isolating, you know? Like, this is your goddamn family. These are the people who you grew up with. These are the people who love you unconditionally, and to have them get so angry or furious at you for standing up for what you believe in at a time now when it's more crucial than ever. Like, again, the fucking bravery, the bravery of all these individuals who are doing this right now. It's unbelievable. Now Biden's in trouble. Hurting his election. Said before this is going to have a massive backlash, and lo and behold, it's happening. I will never vote for Biden. Some Muslim Americans in a key swing state feel betrayed by the president. Muslim and Arab Americans say their support was critical to Biden winning Michigan in 2020. It was. Some warn they won't back him again over his blanket support for Israel. As President Joe Biden declared unwavering support for Israel in the days after the Hamas terror attack, Ahmad Ramadan, a former Biden advisor, now leading coalition efforts in the Michigan Democratic Party, called the state party chair to raise the alarm about what he was hearing. Michigan has one of the largest Muslim and Arab American populations in the country, and they say their support for Biden was instrumental to putting him over the top in the critical swing state in 2020. But now, Ramadan and other Democratic leaders in the state were hearing nothing but frustration with Biden and threats to never vote for him again. In a series of more than a dozen roundtable discussions with Muslim community leaders in the 2 weeks since October 7th attack by Hamas, Ramadan said the main takeaway is that, quote, people are very disappointed. They say they will not forget what President Biden did and why they lied to them. President Biden won historic numbers in 2020, and I was proud to represent that. But the last 2 weeks have really shifted things, Ramadan said. I've also been getting calls from people saying I have blood on my hands because I got people out to support him during the campaign. While Muslim Americans remain a small minority in the U.S. population, their numbers are growing rapidly, and both parties are increasingly vying for their support. Democrats have mostly succeeded so far, as former President Donald Trump and other Republicans turned them off with policies like a travel ban that affected predominantly Muslim countries, something Trump is promising to implement again when he's reelected. If he's reelected. Now, though, Muslim leaders are warning that Democrats risk losing their support too if Biden and the party do not do more to combat Islamophobia and address the pain many are feeling about the war in Gaza. Joe Biden has single-handedly alienated almost every Arab American and Muslim American voter in Michigan, said Alavas Farhat, a Democrat whose district includes Dearborn, which is home to one of the largest Muslim and Arab American communities in the country. Farhat said his constituents and neighbors who have family members trapped in Gaza, including some who are American citizens, and they feel completely abandoned by the U.S. government for not doing more to help them get out, get aid in, and pressure Israel for a ceasefire. The Biden administration and the Democrats as a whole are going to have to do a lot of work to rebuild some level of trust within my community, he said. It's never too late to do the right thing. And this is an important part and why a lot of the pressure is very important. If you're an American, ceasefirenow.com, ceasefirenow.com, what is it? Jordan has been doing a really good job of promoting this on a regular basis. The other Ted, thank you so much for the Prime. Appreciate that with the message Free Palestine. Ceasefire Now. It's a website you can go to that has a ton of resources. You can check out, if you go through it, how to contact your senators, how to contact your representatives, how to contact your lawmakers, petitions that you can sign, organizations that you can either volunteer for or donate aid to, a lot of stuff to continuously apply pressure. We are seeing, and this is the only piece of good news that is coming out of this right now, a massive shift in the way people are talking about this conflict and how the language they're using. We had two former top Obama officials who came out over the weekend and all of the fucking horrors that came from this weekend to state that this is wrong. One of them saying that we need to demand a ceasefire. Here, I'll pull them up. One of them was from the Center for American fucking Progress, of all organizations. Like, if they're turning on you. All right, here we have it. So here's Julian Castro. Agree, Joe Biden, congressional leaders have an opportunity to demonstrate moral clarity in this moment. They should do so. The slaughter of Israelis on October 7th was wrong, and the slaughter of innocent civilians in Gaza with disproportionate force is wrong. Need a ceasefire. Patrick Gaspard, who is, yes, the president of the Center for American Progress. People keep telling me that the situation in Gaza is, quote, complicated. There's nothing complicated about being able to say killing innocent people is wrong and needs to stop. We said it when it was Hamas. We can say it now that it's Israel. This is wrong. This needs to stop. Ceasefire Today. Sorry, Ceasefire Today. Go to Ceasefire Today right now. Ceasefire Today. If you're an American and you want resources, Ceasefire Today is the website to go to. Obviously, check out if you're looking for rallies to go to. Again, being organized by incredible Jewish organizations like Jewish Voices for Peace, if not now org, are doing it as well. Our Commons, I believe, is the way to message your rcommons.ca /members/eng, but just you can go to rcommons.ca is a way to find it. If you are Canadian and you want to find your members of parliament, you just punch in your postal code or your constituency. It'll tell you who your MP is, and you can write directly to your MP, or you can call the office of your MP and ask them for a ceasefire. They are your elected officials. They are supposed to work for you. So now is a time to, again, write to them. It is very easy to do. and do not use any threatening language. Do not, in any way threaten them. That is not right and wrong. It is not right. It is absolutely going to probably get you some form of a police response if you do that kind of shit. Do not do that kind of shit. Write them a letter. There are many guidelines online on how to do so. The numbers speak for themselves. It doesn't need to be in any way an angry letter. It can be like, I am thoroughly and utterly horrified by the current, and then boom, you can put out the numbers of Palestinian children who have been killed in Gaza in the endless bombing campaigns. I would like to ask for an immediate ceasefire. I believe any politician who's not demanding an immediate ceasefire at this moment has lost all moral clarity, and in the future, when we look back upon this, like, how horrifying will it be that we stood by and did nothing kind of stuff, that type of stuff. But yes, and there is petitions as well. Thank you, Fabuli, for putting a petition in the chat to talk about that. And this is obviously going to be way more devastating than I think a lot of people are recognizing yet. Michigan is a key state that Biden will need to win to defeat Donald Trump in the upcoming election in the United States. And yeah, as long as he is continuing this course of directly not only supporting the actions of Israel, but funding the actions of Israel, how in the world does he expect people to sit back and be like, well, yeah, I mean, he did do some aid. There was some aid, right? A percentage of the funding that was proposed did go towards aid. So there's that. That's the plan right now. I think there's going to be a lot of people that remember when you won Michigan. Here's actually what I'll say, because there is like a section of the internet that seems like, witnessing everything that's happening. It's their moment to really, really do some activism and take to the keyboards and start to tone police people for the language they use. Please don't use terms like martyr. How dare you use terms like martyr? That is horrifying language and disgusting. Don't do that. Can you please, you must condemn Hamas. Be sure to condemn Hamas before you make any statements. If you don't, people will assume naturally that you support Hamas. So make sure you do that. And please recognize that while it is, to put it lightly, fucked that the president of the United States is, after, Israel had announced that they were cutting off all food, water, fuel, medical supplies, collective punishment, starving of a civilian population that is half children, you decided to pledge complete and utter support for the campaign. That's fucked. Yeah, that is fucked. But at this time, I just want to let you know that Trump would be doing the same thing. You're calling him Genocide Joe, but what about Genocide Trump? That's like, people are now using that as this moment. So, hey, to every single person who is really, really afraid of Biden just losing this election as a result of his actions here, maybe you should be applying pressure to, I don't know, Joe Biden. Not fucking people online who are horrified rightly right now. Like, everyone who's fucking beside themselves and fucking in shock and just like, what the fuck? Do they need tone policing? Do you need to be the keyboard warrior for that? Be like, well, just want to let you know that, while this is, it does really seem like ethnic cleansing, Donald Trump would be bad too. Yes, Donald Trump is a fucking a warmonger as well. Donald Trump did a lot of fucked up shit in relation to this, moving the fucking embassy and all that shit. Yes, Donald Trump is a fucking horrifying human being, but goddamn, why are you now trying to vote shame people who are rightly horrified? If anything, you should be shaming your president. Shame Joe Biden. Be like, what the fuck? Use all that energy that you have right now to be like, this is going to lose you the election if you continue down this course. Not to mention being complicit in all these fucking horrifying atrocities. That should be enough. But why, of all things? I know everyone is mad and frustrated and angry, and so in the midst of all that anger and frustration, it's like, well, I gotta do a cause, gotta take this time, Well, what did you do at a time when over 3,000 children were bombed, thousands others considered dead under the rubble, and 42% of all homes were destroyed in Gaza? What did you do at that moment in time? Well, you'll be proud to know that I actually spent hours on the internet tone policing people who were using language that I found to be a little icky. So, you know, people who were using terms like martyr, I was very quick to say, don't use those terms. That's gross. You know, how dare you? And I was also very, very astute to point out that Donald Trump would be worse. You know, I mean, he would be, and I'm not here to argue that point. But now is the time to remind everybody of that. You know, it's really a time to concentrate all of that fucking righteousness that you have and direct it at Joe Biden. He's the current president of the United States. He's the one fucking supporting this. He's the one meeting with and hugging Benjamin Netanyahu in the midst of all this. Joe Biden should be the person that you were directing your anger at online. President Biden, not all of America is with you on this one, and you need to wake up and understand that. Michigan Democratic Rep. Rashida Tlaib said, we will remember this. The White House and Biden's campaign said they were aware of the concerns and working to address them, pointing to Biden's comments in his Oval Office address on Thursday night, pushing for aid to Palestinian civilians, urging aid cannot get through right now. What little they are letting trickling in, every single humanitarian organization says doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what they need, because again, everything is blockaded. That was announced before the bombing campaigns began. They are cutting off all food, all water, all electricity, all medical supplies. Fuel is necessary to be able to power these hospitals. They have run out of fuel in the hospitals that remain. This is going to be, again, well, it already is, but it's going to continue to be a fucking humanitarian, like crimes against humanity of the highest order. So you can't just posture with this and it doesn't work. You know, Justin Trudeau's doing the same thing. Well, we are deeply concerned about what we consider to be a growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We would ask that all humanitarian efforts be allowed to get into the country. We're not going to demand a ceasefire. We're not going to apply economic pressure. We're not even going to stop supporting Israel militarily. But we are going to say we're concerned. And you know what? We're going to match donations. So, hey, $10 million worth of donations. If you guys dig deep into your pockets to donate, we're going to match that $10 million as well. And then whenever the blockades are lifted, that aid will get through. And we did the right thing, right? History will remember this moment. The president and his administration have been unequivocal. There is no place for Islamophobia, xenophobia, and any vile racism that we've seen in recent weeks. As MAGA Republicans continue to run on an openly Islamic platform, including renewed support for Donald Trump's Muslim ban, the stakes of next year's election could not be more consequential. And it's just like, just remember, the other guys are worse. Yeah. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and you have no choice. Immediately after his Oval Office address Thursday night, Biden called the family of Wadil al-Fayumi, the 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy slain in Illinois, for what prosecutors say was an anti-Muslim hate crime. Top officials like the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan have held meetings with Arab and Muslim American community leaders to discuss ways to combat Islamophobia. The White House also sent Dilawar Said, the highest-ranking Muslim American official in the Biden administration, to speak at a memorial. In a moment that went viral, the crowd booed him when he started to speak, but he was later applauded when he finished his remarks by emphasizing that Biden will do everything in his power to fight Islamophobia. That work, we commit to you, will not end until every American has the freedom to live their lives in safety without fear. Before the attack, Biden reinstated the White House in celebration for the end of Ramadan and took official action. It's like, look how NBC is padding the second half of this article, right? Because the first half of this article is what is crucial right now to think, especially if you are a Democrat who is deeply, deeply concerned about Trump rising to power. Well, then, yeah, you should be now scared shitless that entire communities in key swing states are no longer going to be supporting Joe Biden because, yeah, how could they? How could anyone, right? Like I people are already doing the voter shaming in this regard. How is anyone supposed to stand there and be like, well, yeah, the ethnic cleansing supporting of one president is bad, but I mean, the ethnic cleansing of another president would be worse. So at this point, you know, hey, it sucks, but we gotta just, you know. There are an estimated 240,000 Muslims in Michigan, a state Biden won in 2020 by 150,000 votes. Trump won Michigan in 2016 by a little more than 10,700 votes. The president cannot win with the Muslim vote, point blank. Al-Hanouti, who is a Palestinian American, said she's heard many people say either they won't vote for president or they'll vote for a third party. The margin in states like Michigan in recent elections have been so thin that many groups can do and claim credit for swinging an election, with representatives of each competing for precious resources and pushing their agenda moved up to the White House's priority ladder. And some demands from Muslim Americans are likely non-starters for Biden, who would have been even before the attack as well. But everyone agrees Biden will need more than every vote he can get in states like Michigan. Michigan is a competitive state and it's purple to begin with these complicated dynamics. It's going to make one of the most challenging states in the country. The anger has especially been felt in Dearborn, where the city's mayor has been exonerating Biden and other officials on social media for being silently complicit in some of the most horrific war crimes our eyes have witnessed, funded by our tax dollars. Sami Kaldi, the president of the Dearborn Democratic Club, said she will not vote. She will still vote Democratic, but added, "I would like to advise my president to rethink about his strategy, his policies, and foreign policies. What I'm hearing now is people feeling completely betrayed by Joe Biden. People are feeling the Democratic Party is unequivocally, with few exceptions, supporting Israel and not humanizing Palestinians and looking at the humanity of Palestinians. The frustration is also widely felt on political left beyond Muslims, especially younger voters. A new Quinnipiac University poll found while a large majority, 68% of Democrats, approve of Biden's handling of Israel, 42% of all registered voters do. Only 21% of voters age 18 to 34 approve, while 50% disapprove. So losing Muslim voters, losing Arab voters, losing young voters in key swing states where you need those voters.
These past days has shown us the flagrant hypocrisy of the West. Those liberal democracies.
500,000 people marched in London. 500,000 people marched in London. There were marches in Toronto, marches in Vancouver, marches here in the Netherlands. There's been global protests and marches, people rightfully horrified and just in awe of the atrocities being committed right now against Palestinian civilians, half of whom are children. The politicians, as of yet, are not listening, but the pressure is increasing, and as the pressure increases, so too are you seeing a lot of people shift not only their narrative, but the ways in which they speak. Again, I never thought I'd see two top Obama officials speaking the way they are already, but like, again, hearts out to every single person who is opposing what is taking place right now, who is marching countries across the world. Massive protests in France, massive protests in Germany. You know, I've seen them globally. Not to mention all the protests that are taking place in the Middle East. It's something that politicians can't continue to ignore. By the way, as someone who attended a protest in Vancouver, there was no anti-Semitism that I saw or heard. If anything, there was a lot of Jewish people in that protest. There was a lot of signs that said, not in our name. There were lots of people in harmony protesting together. Muslim Canadians, Jewish Canadians, white people, black people, brown people, all people just banding together to oppose war. Just anti-war demonstrations of a huge number.
Who claim to uphold international law, all of a sudden, none of them is calling for a ceasefire. How shameful is that? None of them is calling for a ceasefire. Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Actually, we as Dutch Palestinian, we don't accept what our Prime Minister did say, that he is supporting Israel unconditionally. Right. And that has to be done not in our name, because we as Palestinian Dutch, we don't accept the support for child killer, for people who practiced the last apartheid regime in the world. The last one was in South Africa and it did fail. And now the next one is in, the current one is in Israel, and this is going to fail as well. So, and we are standing here in Den Haag, in The Hague, where the International Criminal Court is. And we do request that Netanyahu and the Defense Minister of Israel should be standing here to be asked about the war criminality that they have done to Gaza children and girls. So this is unacceptable. we do request per direct stop a ceasefire. We want that international investigation has to be started to see who did kill more innocent citizens. Is it Israel or Hamas? Because we hear all the words about Hamas. Hamas did kill babies, Hamas did kill girls or women. But what I see on the facts is that Israel is the one who is doing that. So I would say we would better condemn Israel for its crimes and then start to condemn Hamas. Because I don't got someone who killed maybe 10. I don't accept it. Killing 10 innocent citizens is not good. I don't accept it. But I will not go to the one who killed 10 and just ignore the one who killed 3,000 kids in Gaza, 3,000 child. So this can be described in one word, it's hypocrisy.
So yeah, global protests. Of course, the one in Central Station was just awe-inspiring to see. That one was organized by both Jewish Voices for Peace, and I think if not now, played a role as well. But again, thousands of Jewish protesters blocking Central Station, many of them getting arrested. It was again just inspiring to see everything that's been happening. And I just wanted to play this video by Conscious Lee about the Congo genocide, which is often completely ignored by Western media.
Here's what's happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo while the world looks away. Thousands have been killed and more than 500,000 displaced as a Rwandan-backed rebel group called the M23 sweeps through the east of the country. They're fighting Congolese government forces, but as they advance, they're killing, raping and mutilating civilians, even children. A lot of countries have told Rwanda to stop backing the M23 rebels, but the UK hasn't. Analysts have suggested that Britain's holding back on criticising Rwanda because of the deal where the UK would send asylum seekers there for processing. While the politicians argue, civilians continue to be killed.
As a Black American that comes from descendants of enslaved Africans, I acknowledge what's going on in Congo, to me, fits with a lot of the hubris of how individuals start during chattel slavery. Because though we all enjoy, you feel me, the things they put in their blood, sweat, and tears in to make sure that we're able to get this old cobalt, a lot of us are able to turn our ears and our eyes away from what's going on because, hey, they ain't none of our business. You see what I'm saying? There were a lot of individuals during chattel slavery that enjoyed cotton, enjoyed tea, enjoyed sugar in their everyday lives. You see what I'm saying? But when it came to the individuals that was putting blood, sweat, and tears into, plowing, fielding, making sure they getting those elements, making sure they getting those resources, they was able to turn the blind eye to it. You don't care about it. You feel me? What's happening in the Congo right now? It sounds very familiar. A Western entity coming to fund bloodshed and displace the indigenous population in order to steal resources and forward its own interests. Familiar, right? Congo is currently going through a silent holocaust. Millions of people are being killed so that the Western world can continue to benefit from its natural resources. Congo has the world's largest reserve of coltan. Coltan is a critical mineral needed for electronic devices, aerospace, and innovation of technology. When you start to romanticize the advancements of technology and how technological dependent our society goes on, recognize that has different impacts based off of where you at and how you position in terms of how you get to enjoy that, or how your body is exploited and dehumanized to employ it. You know what I'm saying? Western countries, the same little old group, United States, UK, France, etc., have been providing financial and military aid to Uganda and Rwanda to invade regions filled with coltan reserves. As they invade, millions of people are killed. Over 6 million have been killed, half of which are children. The device I'm recording this video on literally is what's used to make sure these Congolese children and women and men are being brutalized, being funded by the US, the UK, and France for natural resources. But I know we usually turn a blind eye because, hey, man, those Africans are going to fight. Those Africans are going to war. Of course, the Africa is war spread. 2 + 2 is 4. The sky is blue, and Africans fight and kill each other. How do you think we got you? An African sold you into slavery, head ass. Like, I recognize the rhetoric. You know what I mean? The narrative, the mindset that we're supposed to been indoctrinated for when it comes to recognizing what's happening in Africa and what's happening in the Middle East. But I think that it is not ironic that Palestine, Congo, It's all in the same region. You see what I'm saying? Like these places ain't far from each other at all. Think about that, man. Free Congo, obviously.
Here's what's happening.
Want a copy of that video? Here it is. This is Consciously. All right. And finally, I wanted to switch gears a little bit from this coverage to Bud Light 2.0. Yeah. Oh, and shout out, by the way, our first multi-stream has been an incredible success. We got over 600 viewers between multiple platforms. Obviously, the only platform I can promote here is the Twitch stream. So, I mean, if you want to enjoy the stream and interact with the chat, come to Twitch, and that's what I'm supposed to say, I believe. But also, it's awesome to have all of you here, and it's definitely pretty cute to finally be able to you know, spread the word to multiple different outlets. We're gonna get on, you know, Slurm Vision soon. We're gonna get on all those other ones, and maybe Bud Light has a streaming platform coming out. I don't know if you've been following the Bud Light saga. It'd be hard not to. It's been dominating the culture wars for most of 2023. It's been a time. Republicans feel very betrayed by their, you know, fermented piss of choice, and they were really mad at Bud Light. You know, not mad enough to stop drinking it. Kid Rock, you know, for all his friskiness, he'd shoot up those Bud Light cans, and then he'd be at concerts being like, give me a light. Time for a little blue, you know? Daddy needs to get frisky again. But now they're celebrating. Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, all the anti-LGBTQ plus bigots are saying, hey, we were saved. We have salvation in the form of a new Bud Light sponsorship. That's definitely going to take it to those marginalized communities that deserve it. So
guys, I'm on my way to training.
Sean Strickland is a fan of the USC Bud Light sponsorship deal. Let's see.
I just found out Bud Light's a new sponsor. And goddamn, I applaud you guys. I am so fucking proud of you guys for doing the right things after that fuck up. You know how I feel about transgenders. I go fucking hard. Just what I do. I'm the biggest advocate of biological females. If I said my views on transgenders, I would get kicked off Instagram.
That's it's got to be one of those pickup lines that doesn't work quite as well, eh? Oh, just so you know, I'm one of the biggest advocates of biological females. Yeah, I wanna control women's spaces more. Make sure that, you know, I continue to control women's spaces for the biological females.
But I could not fucking wait to pick up a big old fucking Bud Light can and fix you, Bud Light, because you guys are doing the right fucking thing. I, Sean Strickland, a representation of the American people, are gonna fix you, Bud Light. Thank you for giving me money. Thank you for supporting my platform. I'm gonna help you guys.
So yeah, that's why Crowder and all those people are so happy right now. They're like, hey, we got the shitty beer back, I think. Well, either way, someone's gonna take it to them. Go after those people who are already suffering immensely and vilified, broadly speaking, by a lot of the right and conservatives and society in general. You know, even well-to-do normies are really behind the times on a lot of this shit. Even the well-to-do normies who will be like, oh, I don't have bigotry in my heart. I'm a live and let live kind of person, right? Just, you know, stay away from the kids. Sorry, what was that last word? Yeah, just stay away from the kids. But, you know, if you want to be an adult and, you know, choose to be trans or something, who am I to stop you? And it's like, when you say stay away from them kids, you have to recognize that trans kids exist, gay kids exist, queer kids exist. They just exist, and their lives can be very, very hard and much more difficult than their cis or straight counterparts. And because they exist, it's nice that you know, we acknowledge their existence, tell them they're loved and valid, and that's really what a lot of this is about. But yeah, just keep on targeting those marginalized communities. Certainly looks great in the annals of history when you look back on everything.
Freestyle the news! They've shut off all matter of telecommunications coming out of Gaza.
This sentence is incredibly misleading.
This shooting in Lewiston, Maine.
What's that phone with us?
3 locations.
You ain't got the answers, fucking up his answers. Everyone get canceled on a ticket they ain't asked for. It's just funny looking backwards, like parades you trying to crash through. Y'all debating over ceasefires while some killers trying to mass shoot. They say our money go up, how much it costs you in blood. You still can't talk about it, really, they keep killing us all. No, they can't pay you enough, they'll buy the store if they want. Show up outside your house and then say it was both of your faults. It's kinda funny, they keep talking while you pitching yourself. Yeah, might as well just go cut the gas on your flight. Ron, those lies ain't helping your hype. Ain't nobody fuck with you on the evening news, that's you, Travis Taylor, alright? Tell them, maybe, just wait, hold up. Maybe, I can't keep up. Maybe, I don't know if it's real. I tell them, baby, it's way too much. Baby, who can I trust? Maybe, I don't know if it's real. Hold up, hold up, hold up. Yo, 4 times the charm. After every other vote that you have bombs. Got a baddie motherfucker and a whole squad screaming all day when a rainbow comes on. Everybody in the house meet Mike John. Got a Bible every answer he puts on. I'm just counting down the days till we shut down. Even Jesus looking at him like, get the fuck out, really? Challenges while Biden looking old. Gaza deaths quadrupling the toll. If you on X, you don't know what you know. Except that shit is tanked since it was sold. Hear the numbers, fuck the Muskers, dropping summers, users under churn up 30. I'm not both places, I'm a content worthy. Gotta check my Nintendo if you smash up Curry. They got Barbenheimer, I got Taylor Moon. They got the Knights of Freddy's, I got the Allen too. They got a not guilty from the Santos crew, looking worse than Justin with a Britney view. Got Ivanka near the case, she gon' testify. Got Lula in Brazil, says genocide.
Faux shiz. Faux shiz.
Never shooting, feeling normal till we're terrified. And a stand-up comic lie. Tell them, maybe, just wait, hold up. Maybe, I can't keep up. Maybe, I don't know if it's real. I tell them, baby, it's way too much. Baby, who cannot...
I really appreciated your reaction to Hasan Minhaj's video. I haven't seen other lefties saying anything about it. I mean, there is, to be fair, a lot of other news going on around the world. I'm not holding anyone for that, but yeah, it deeply disturbed me how that was a story that got ran with. And not only did it got like fucking ran with, but then a ton of fucking people, including like he may have lost the Daily Show because of that. And like when it was framed to me, because me and Zed were talking about that behind the scenes, because I remember I sent Zed a bunch of stuff because he brought it up on the Leftist Mafia, and I was like, this just doesn't smell right. Like something's off here. And I was like, you know, it's one thing to accuse someone of fabricating stories, sure, but if it's a comedian and there are truths to his stories and then he's changing parts of it around or exaggerating or parts of that, I mean, that's comedy. Like, and why are we going specifically after Hasan when there's so many people who do this all the time? And like, you know, stand-ups that I treasure, you know, that's why I wanted to put that clip from Killing Them Softly where, you know, Chappelle's talking about the 3 a.m. Baby encounter, and I was like, there's probably some truth to that story. There's probably elements where he has seen children up really late at night in impoverished areas, and that's, you know, the basis for that joke. Did he have a baby talk to him at 3 a.m. trying to sell him weed? Probably not, you know, because that's like it, but you exaggerate reality for the purposes of the punchline and comedy while bringing light to a very important issue. Right, and that was the whole purpose of that bit. And then the same thing could be said about Hasan. And in Hasan's stand-up, it was made out that he had made up so many key parts of his story, including experiencing racism as a brown person, right? And that to me was just like, but that's wild. That's wild that we're going after him because like every single element of his story. Then it turns out that in that interview, he was upfront about all of that. He was like, oh yeah, just so you know, like this person, actually this really did happen, but this happened a couple days before the prom instead of actually right up to the prom. But that's, you know, I just changed the order of that around so that, you know, he said that in the interview with the person, and the person took all of this information in, and rather than take that and be like, okay, so I'm now going to give this whole thing, you know, an honest article about his craft or anything like that he was upfront about, I'm going to spin the whole thing into like how he deceives people and hasn't actually really experienced racism, and that like this thing didn't happen. And like every single one of the major events that he was like really strongly accused of like fabricating, like you never knew a guy who became an FBI informant. He never went to your mosque. He's like, yeah, we knew each other. I changed his name clearly because I wanted to protect his identity. But like, here's the text messages that he sent me based on, you know, that special. In terms of the powder, yeah, it didn't happen exactly as I described it. It wasn't that my daughter opened up a mail and then white powder flew out. I opened up the letter and white powder came out, and my daughter was across in the other room staring at it, and obviously I was filled with terror and fear, as anyone would be. But while telling the joke and telling the setup and then using a punchline, yes, I altered parts of that. That's not me trying to lie that I've never experienced this kind of stuff before. And now in hindsight, I was like, it's just so fucked. So fucked that like, you know, a lot of major media outlets just ran with it. Just went along, and they're like, oh, well, you know, Hasan clearly has lied about all of this, and he's implicating real people in the real world. Like, goddamn.
Trust, maybe I don't know if it's real. Listen, so somebody told me to clean my mic in the last video, and I took that personally, so I put this on it, but then I realized that my cat, this is a shit ton of hair on it, so I have a hard life, man. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please hit that like button like a median that you drive over when you're trying to get through a parade because you're so fucking mad. Like, why would you have a parade on my street? What the fuck is your problem? And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. Very quickly, we were off last week, but I also ran like a couple polls like on the community tab of this channel. By the way, we have a fucking dope community tab, so if you want to have some fun, check that out. But actually, a couple days ago, I tried to do a live stream. I was playing Spider-Man 2 a little bit. I was like, hey, what? I want people to fucking hang out with me. And then somebody was like, hey, bro, I didn't come to watch you fucking play video games. I'm paraphrasing.
People ask why I don't stream a lot of video games, because they're like, Lance, you're a gamer. I was like, sure am. Over the weekend, I beat the Calypso Protocol. It was fun. I got what I paid for, by which I mean it's just part of, like, you know, the free games you get to download, so that's why I was playing through it. But I just wanted a Halloween game, you know, but it was, yeah, you know, it was, scary monster things jumping at you and stuff. Yeah, good times. When I stream video games rather than do the news show, people get real mad. Even, like, you know, there's people who like just hanging out and just enjoying my banter, and it doesn't matter what I'm talking about, so they'll be there. So, you know, there'll be very low numbers, but they'll hang out, they'll be there. But so many people drop in and it's like, you gonna play games like this whole stream, bro, or what the hell? Hey, by the way, did you see what happened in Darfur? Here's a link. You gonna talk about that? Don't think that's more important than the video games you're playing right now? I agree with you. It is, you know, and what's happening in Haiti is more important, and obviously what's happening in Somalia is more important than me playing a game. Yeah, it's just I wanted to do it. It's just a little game stream. Just doesn't always have to be about, you know, immense human suffering, government corruption, and how we're all complicit in the military-industrial complex all the time. Yeah, I am aware of those things, though. You know, the military-industrial complex is. It's pretty shit. I think I've said it.
Using mainly all of the curse words, and that kind of upset me because look, I totally understand. Like, watch the content you want to watch. I never want to force somebody.
I want to watch Zed play Spider-Man 2 now. Have y'all heard about Spider-Man 2? I'm gonna watch the video game donkey video later, but I've been like looking every now and then for what's news that's not just about immense human suffering and war crimes, and so I've been kind of following some of the video game outrage. And it's funny. Oh man, it's funny. So Spider-Man 2, if you didn't know, apparently it's fun. It's great. I haven't played it. I'll wait till it's one of those PS Plus free downloads, just because that's how I roll. I like to just play games, you know, months later after they're popular, because I'm emo or something. Also, it's way more affordable to do it that way. But Spider-Man 2, awesome, open world, great graphics, fun storyline. Everyone's enjoying it, except for one thing. Mary Jane, apparently, is not smashable. Yes, they intentionally, with malice, made her ugly. And no one knows about this, but at least gamers are getting to the bottom of it. And they have theories. Oh, and they're very vocal about those theories, too. They think perhaps it's because one of the writers looks a little bit like the character render. One of the writers, I'm going to have you know, by the way, because I don't know if you know this, but those games, they have fuck tons of dialogue. Like one human being doesn't write literally every single thing that the NPCs say when you walk by them. That's not just one person. There are a team of writers. There are writing staff. Lots and lots of, like, just look at the game credits at the very end when it's scrolling up, and then all of a sudden it gets to like, you'll see like lead writer, head writer, and story director or something like that. Okay, those are just a few people. And then it'll get into all of the other writers, you know, the people who ideally, I mean, like, unionize if you haven't already, but like, yeah, they're making a baseline pay to be able to write hours upon hours upon hours of dialogue for lots of characters. But anyways, one of those writers apparently resembles the character render of Mary Jane, of which both look totally fine, you know? Like, I thought I was going to see this, like, hideous Mary Jane, and everyone's like, because of the outrage that's going on online, look, it's totally fine. What is going on here? What are the beauty standards? Like, does it have to be like, no, but does not have anime titties? You know, the titty physics, not jiggling, you know, adequate proportions to my liking. And it's like, what are we even doing here? I mean, this is hilarious. Keep going. They're freaking out about the new Mario game too. They're saying apparently Mario has been cutified and feminized, like force feminized, as part of some like insidious plot by Nintendo to change, you know, the stoic, handsome manliness of the original Mario. And I was like, you know, there is a lot of video game characters where I'm just like, wow, that is a beautiful man, just massive muscles and things. And I'm not even here to take away your fucking monster titties, by the way. I love monster titties, okay? I'm on your team. If anything, I was advocating for more dong and more other shit, you know? We need more man dong in games, and we need more just, you know, absolute alpha chads, you know, and shit like that. I want it all, but I'm not everybody. And it's totally okay for some people to just want to play a video game. You know, like some people like to enjoy playing a video game, and then later they might enjoy looking at the secular flesh. That's something that everyone can enjoy. So I'm not fighting you on this one, gamers. I'm just saying that it's pretty wild that you're choosing this as yet another weird ass hill. But yeah, there it is.
To watch Freestyle the News content to watch gaming content, and vice versa. If you're here for fighting game stuff, I don't want to force you to watch Freestyle the News if you don't want to engage with it. I'm appreciative if you engage with both. I think both are fun. So I threw a poll up and said, hey, what kind of content do you want to engage with? And everybody was very, very kind and very, very nice. I have like a dope community, man. I would love to do live streams on this channel to just hang out. So like when I'm trying to grab Freestyle the News stuff, or when I'm trying to like, hey, I just want to like...
Is this it, Hero One? Look what they did! Look what they took from you! Look what they took from you! I say this, by the way, as a gamer. You gamers give gamers a really, really bad rap, you know? Like, I get why people are like, what the fuck's up with the gaming community? Because every time you look over and you see headlines, like on Kotaku or something, it's like, gamers outraged that Mary Jane apparently is ugly in new Spider-Man. Like... Okay.
Like relax, but hey, I want to see what you guys are up to. I want to be able to open that up so people can have a good time. And I wanted to bring you guys other types of content as well. For example, we posted the first episode of Zed Talks. You kind of get it. It's like TED Talks, but with it. Okay. We posted it on Thursday regarding Hasan Minhaj and the whole...
We watched it. It was great. Go watch it. Go follow Zed. Go follow Zed's work. Zed does awesome Freestyle the News segments. He's appeared numerous times on Leftist Mafia. Hey, the numbers right now are quite significant on both sites, so I just want to put out a notice to everybody who doesn't know about this already. This Thursday, actually I can do it in announcer voice. Thursday, Leftist Mafia is going to be doing a fundraiser. We're not going to be accepting super chats. We're turning off all donos. All the money will be going directly to Palestinian Children Relief Funds. We're going to be trying to fundraise as much money as possible. I've already got the Tiltify link up if you are just too eager and you want to throw money at it right away. It's available in the Twitch chat, the only chat that I'm streaming on. But for everyone else who's watching this Thursday, it's going to be the entire Leftist Mafia. Hopefully we can get a special guest or two. Thursday. Be there. Regular Leftist Mafia times, but yeah, they're going to be there. So I saw over the weekend... Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks made a post where she said that she was creating content for the extreme left, centering herself in the middle of a number of world crises right now. But the reason being is that there's a viral clip going around where she apparently compares the use of the term birthing person to the N-word, which, as you'll notice, I'm saying the N-word. I'm not saying the actual word, but I am saying birthing person. So comparing inclusive language to, again, the N-word, pretty wild stuff. But you know, context is everything, in this world, and I didn't want to cover it at the time, which took place last week, because again, if she's saying that this is something the extreme left, of which anyone, I guess, who is for inclusive language now is considered a part of, is opposed to, I was like, well, then I'll wait until next week, because then it's just not like me kind of stuff. But yeah, this was the podcast she appeared on. Apparently it starts at the 30-minute mark, but I just wanted to see the intro.
I learned it through Sesame Street. I learned it through Gilligan's Island. Or many Americans call it Gilligan's Island, but I called it Island, right? So anyway, she is political commentator, media host, and journalist. She's the main host and a producer on the online TV show Young Turks. Having begun her working as a film producer on the show in 2007, she also appeared on the television version of the show that aired on Current TV. She's a vocal critic of the political establishment. She is for some people that are confused, she's not a birthing person. She's a woman, just so everybody knows.
Oh, thank God you clarified that.
And we're going to have to talk about what the situation's in California. She went in high school somewhere in Van Nuys. The name, it's a school that's no longer around. You're a CSUN grad. So is Tom. So there's some similarities here. A possible controversial figure, fiery, will push back. Energized, smart. You got the whole thing going on, so it's an honor to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
I enjoy listening to your podcast. It could also get very fiery.
Yes. Yes.
The last podcast episode I listened to, actually this morning, was a fiery one where what's the name of the guy? It was like a financial gentleman. Schiff, I think is his last name. You guys were a debate.
Oh, Peter Schiff.
Yeah. That got
Schiff.
heated.
That was yes.
Wow, fun.
Yes.
By the way, respects to our good friend Cenk, who's been here multiple times. And how's he doing?
He's doing great. He enjoys coming in here. He loves that. You know, I think that he and I are similar in that we like to debate and we like to share our opinions and then end the conversation knowing that there's no bad blood. So I think he enjoys being able to come in here and speak his mind. And, you know, you guys seem to treat him with respect, even though there are disagreements. So.
I've had very strong disagreements with both of you, and recently on Hasan's stream, Cenk said that I'm a scorpion. I, in the best of faith, did not call him Hitler or a Nazi. Not once. That was not calling him a Nazi. Despite those acts, never used that term. Not once. And I was pretty, I would say, fair and upfront about my opposition to being against inclusive language. Because again, birthing person, it's not to erase the term woman in any way, shape, or form. Inclusive language is good actually, because it can include other groups of whom these things can affect. People who give birth, for example. That's But there hasn't been a reach out. I've said before, the door is always open. I too enjoy debate and speaking to people with whom I disagree with. But I suppose I have to be a centrist or a right-winger now to get those graces.
Last time we even had lunch at the house together, got a chance to get to know his wife. It was a great conversation.
Candidate Cenk now, and he the Supreme Court irritator.
Oh, that's right. We saw the video that he's running for office. I saw that video. He said,
"That's still all right with Tim. He was just too polite, honestly. Like." I went in there because people always accuse the left, especially the dirtbag left, of not actually bringing arguments, just name calling, right? It's like, oh, what, you're against trans rights? Well, your beanie's full of poo-poo because you're a poopy head, and there's probably poo-poo inside the beanie, kind of stuff like that. But I was like, I wanted to leave that being like, well, I just want to get a whole bunch of stuff on the record in terms of like what is actually factually correct about this quote unquote discussion. And man. The beanie was he was mad. He was calling me all kinds of names. I was accused of trying to genocide autistic children. I was accused of being a member of a cult. I was accused of wanting to sterilize all trans people. It was just like thing after thing after thing after thing after thing.
And to me, it's going to be interesting to see. By the way, did you see Arnold yesterday said that he thinks he would make a great president, something to do with the laws change. I don't know if he saw Cenk's video or not, and maybe that's the influence.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So Arnold, I'd be a great president. That's right. This was a day ago. He'd be a great president. His worry is whether Biden or Trump, he's worried about those two candidates. Obviously, you can't blame him on one side. One person can't walk. Maybe you can blame him on both sides for some people, but he would be.
Okay, so let's get to the section that everyone's talking about. Here we go.
Policies. Like, do I think Bush cares? I don't really think Bush cares. Like, listen, I'm done. Leave me alone. I'm gone. I don't want to come and say stuff. Let me just go do my own thing, right? Do I think Hillary cares? Yes. Do I think Bill Clinton cared? I really don't think Bill Clinton cared. I think Bill Clinton's like, let me go do whatever I'm doing, right? I think Obama cares, and I think Trump cares. Both of them. They're both legacy people, which is like, hey, you cannot undermine my legacy. Is it a valid enough of a concern to be that worried about it? I don't know. The part I would bring back to you is the following. It's been very interesting seeing how you're reacting to strange things.
James from the internet, good to see. Birthing person is Anna's 9/11. Well, we'll see. I haven't seen the full clip. I want to give this its fair due in good faith. Want to add context. I've only seen the viral clip that was being shared online.
And communities targeting you. For example, Anna Kasparian doubles down after, this is earlier, this is like 6 months ago, after bashing trans-inclusive term birthing person as degrading to women. Okay, now somebody's going to be like, well, wait a minute. Anna would never, is this the same Anna from Young? That's not possible. That can't be. This is a mistake. This is a fake story, right? She would never debate birthing person. She should be okay with that. But no, progressive media host Anna Kasparian stood firm in her criticism of the term birthing person as degrading to women. She responded to backlash with humor, stating, laughing out loud, the meltdowns over wanting to be referred to as a woman rather than a birthing person is pretty wild, and emphasized her refusal to apologize, saying, I'll never apologize for that, especially as a biological woman who has had the effing lifetime of being told I'm less than. Some progressive criticized Kasparian for her stance, comparing her to J.K. Rowling and accusing her of bigotry. Transgender activists clarified that the term birthing person was not used to describe individual women, but rather to include trans men and non-binary people in discussions about pregnancy. So I listened to this. I'm like, okay, if a person doesn't know you, but they know of you and you're with Young Turks, or typical criticism in my Armenian community circle. I'll just kind of, it's not like you don't know it. How could she work with the guy that said such and such about Armenian genocide? Okay, cool. I've heard that a million times. She's a socialist, Bernie Sanders, da-da-da. Okay. She's a Trump, what's the TDS, whatever.
Derangement syndrome.
Yeah, she's part of, she's this, she's that. Okay, that's the criticism when, friends are talking. I said, okay, cool. But then this kind of brings it out to like, no, she is actually
Professor
not wanting to be bullied and categorized and cornered, to have to agree with everything that's taking place.
Hey, the God Pod. Thank you for the rating party of 38. Welcome in. Can everyone go to twitch.tv/the God Pod. Give the God Pod a follow back. And we're just in the midst right now of watching the context behind the viral clip that Anna did on the BPD podcast.
So you're almost experiencing a little bit of what Trump experienced as an individual, that they're now attacking you.
Yeah.
And you've been for some of these guys, but now they're coming after you. So do you kind of see yourself saying, look, I don't know if I'm not the Anna of who I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Maybe I'm also maturing with some of my policies, maybe, or growing with some of my policies. Or no, I'm not the Democrat of 3 years ago or socialist of 5 years ago. I'm also evolving today.
I appreciate the
What's going
capitalist
on with your transition
here? Yeah.
Well, hold that thought for a second, because I'm going to answer that question.
Please.
But before I do, I want to address one other thing, which is how much of a badass I am. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I single-handedly persuaded the most well-known Turkish American, Cenk Uygur, to, on his show multiple times, acknowledge the Armenian genocide. I did that. Okay. I could have just given him the middle finger and said, you're a Turk. I don't work for Turks. I'm an Armenian. And I could have just demonized him for what he wrote when he was literally in college. He was a dumb college student who had a lifetime of Turkish propaganda in his head about the Armenian genocide. And I decided, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to persuade him of what the actual truth is. And I did that. And I give myself a lot of credit. No one else does. Armenians don't. But I'm going to give myself credit, because persuading people, doing the hard work of persuading people, that takes effort, that takes strength. And we don't have a lot of that in America right now. We have a lot of crying and whining about people not agreeing with each other. And then everyone goes off in their own corner. Everyone takes their ball and they go home. Okay. So to answer your question, You are correct. I do not like to be bullied or pressured into saying things or believing things that I do not believe. I find that terminology degrading. Okay?
Why?
Personally, because I'm not a birthing person.
Oh, it's not for you. Yeah. Yeah, it's women and people who give birth. Cis women. That's the whole point of the inclusive language. Again, I know you know that because you've made the exact same arguments before. There is no campaign being done by the LGBTQ plus community to erase the term woman. It's an utterly and completely, I would say, just jaw-droppingly bizarre hill to continue to push. Because again, that's just a right-wing talking point. Oh yeah, the queers are trying to erase the term woman. Oh yeah, the queers, the LGBTQ plus activists, so all the trans activists, they want to erase women, get rid of the term women, replace them with birthing persons or bonus holes. None of that.
Okay, I'm a woman.
What's wrong with being called a birthing person?
Well, first of all, not all women even have the capacity to get pregnant. So it's degrading to them to be essentially to have their womanhood questioned if they're not
what a point
unable if they're unable to have kids to begin with. But also, I mean, look, this is the thing that annoys me about this entire issue and conversation, because they'll turn around and they'll say, no one's calling you a birthing person. Okay, does someone need to call an individual who finds the N-word offensive, the N-word, in order for him or her to find it offensive?
I gotta be honest, with context, it's worse. I did the fair thing. I let it build. You know, I wanted to not just clip it out of nowhere and be like, hey, have you all seen this clip? Pretty wild, right? So now we have the context. So yeah. Now I'm not a black person myself, so I can't speak to this. I don't know what it would feel like. I imagine it's fucking horrifying and horrible to be called the N-word. A word that is not being used, again, to erase the term woman, that is simply being used as inclusive language, is in no way comparable.
Or degrading. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
No one needs to be called that word to find it problematic or to...
So she admits that no one has actually been calling her that, because she wasn't saying that earlier in the Twitter back and forths, but here we are.
Have an issue with it. And
Jesse Battle says Lance is so disingenuous. All right, you know what? Don't take it from me. Take it from this person, okay? Listen to this person talk about this.
And he, along with other Republican lawmakers, deserve to be dismissed on this issue because it's bad faith. They know there's a difference between gender and sex. They know that it is very possible for someone to be born a biological male or a biological female, but in terms of gender, identify differently as a male or non-binary, but they still have the biological capacity, the physical capacity to get pregnant. So that's why the language, the rhetoric is inclusive to include those people. It is not a big deal, but they make it a big deal. They manufacture it into a big deal because that's all Republicans are. That's all they have. This is all they do. Endless bad faith arguments meant to fearmonger and direct hatred and fear toward other Americans, typically powerless Americans, while they rob you blind, by the way, while they enable corporations to rob you blind.
Yep.
That's what this is about. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. I'm so freaking sick of it.
Yeah, the one blessing we have is that he's particularly bad at it. He thought he.
So yeah, to take it up with whoever that person is.
Besides which, I was called that. Okay, yes, in a medical setting, but this is a doctor who knows I'm a biological woman. Call me a woman. But I had a conversation with that doctor. Why did you feel the need to call me a birthing?
Wish you were as tough with Tim Pool as you are with me, Jesse. Why are you trying to turn yourself into a martyr right now? Why are you trying to act like you're really struggling here? You're just dropping into a chat. You want a little attention. You're trying to make everyone notice you. You're getting it. I don't understand. You know, it's not that bad.
Person. Like, where did that come from? And in California, medical providers are basically like told that there will be penalties if they don't use the proper terminology or if they're caught doing anything discriminatory toward the trans community. Now, if they're actually doing something discriminatory toward the trans community, I think medical providers absolutely should face consequences. But the idea that we should change all of our terminology, even toward women who want to be called women, in order to be inclusive is ridiculous to me. Now, if a transgender person wants to be called that, fantastic. I respect it. I'll do it. I'll engage in it. But I think in the context of my relationship with my doctors, I want to be called a woman. It's not that difficult. It is my personal preference. Okay? That doesn't mean that
But I fail to see who's taking that away from you, though. Because you just said people aren't actually using that term or calling you that term. And you've said, well, yeah, but people don't have to call me that term for me to know that it's offensive. It's the same thing as the N-word. You don't have to use the N-word for someone to know that that's wrong. But if people aren't calling you that term, and people are also trying to use more inclusive language when discussing issues such as, yes, people who can give birth, that includes cis women, that includes trans men, that includes non-binary people who give birth. It's not erasure. It's we have a wider understanding. Again, I could just play the clip of Anna. You explained it so perfectly, months ago.
In any way believe that transgender people should be treated differently or that they should be discriminated.
Right, but see, the problem is they are. That's the thing, right? Like, there's so many bills, and I know you know this. I'm not saying that Anna's opposed to fighting against all these Republican bills on trans people. TYT is very clear about that on a regular basis, but they are using this as a wedge issue on a regular basis, because, like, I thought this one would have went away, but we're still talking about birthing person that is being used specifically to be able to get people in a position where they can be like, well, that is offensive. Actually, I see this. I'm critical about gender, and now I'm becoming gender critical, and I'm understanding that, I'm for trans rights. I understand that, trans rights are human rights. They should have equal rights, but also inclusive language in this regard could be used to erase the very thing that is woman.
Against, or that they should not live lives of dignity. I have had an entire career defending them, supporting them, and this one issue led to ridiculous outrage among a fringe component of that community. They are not representative of the entire transgender community. And for that fringe component, if they think that they're going to shut me up and force me to say things I don't believe, they've got another thing coming. Okay? I'm going to say what I think. Every single time.
Do you think they're crossing the line a little bit and it's getting a little bit too ridiculous in certain sectors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
they turn people off with it. And again, it is a...
So now we're back to civil rights with caveats, right? Yes, equal rights and inclusive language is generally a good thing, as you yourself have said in that clip very eloquently. But yeah, once again, LGBTQ plus activists are going too far. They're just turning people away with this topic, which again I haven't heard anyone talking about outside of Anna. like I converse with a lot of LGBTQ plus people and activists and social media influencers and people who are advocating for the rights of queer folk a lot, and they're not bringing up birthing persons.
Fringe component of the transgender community, and they don't even realize how counterproductive they're being.
And who's allowed for that to happen? Who's been a part of that becoming a reality? Who do you think?
Look, I think most people want to do the right thing, okay? And so they want to be as accepting and tolerant and inclusive as possible, and they don't want to come across as being in any way discriminatory. And I respect that. I think that it comes from a good place, but they shut their brains off sometimes and just go along with things without considering maybe some of the unexpected consequences, how others might feel about what they're engaging in. I think that there's this conflation with the gay community and the transgender community, because think about it. Like, I think a lot of people on the left think of the trans community the same way they thought of the gay community, right? Like, yeah, why not legalize gay marriage? Like, what's wrong with that? Who's it hurting? But when it comes to some transgender issues, there is a lot on the line, right? Like, when we do talk about kids transitioning, you want to make sure that we have a system in place where there's a proper protocol implemented to ensure that we're not transitioning kids who might not actually be transgender.
You think it's okay to transition kids under the age of 18, even if the parents consent?
So, by the way, that exists. Like, you know, it is an often far right talking point and right wing talking point. Actually, I shouldn't just exclude the right. The right are doing this all the time. So are a lot of fucking centrists and center writers. But overwhelmingly, yes, this is something that every major medical association in the United States agrees upon. There is not a system of a revolving door situation where kids are going into a doctor saying, hey, I am confused. And then they're like, well, you must be trans. Let's begin the transition immediately because it makes us lots of money. So there's a financial incentive for us to want to transition you as quickly as possible. There is multiple consultations. Again, for children, when we're talking about children, if we're talking about under the age of when you experience puberty, typically, you know, under 11 to 12 years of age, at that phase, gender affirming care is not surgeries. It's not hormones or anything like that. It is affirming someone's gender, maybe allowing them to use different names or pronouns, maybe dress differently or wear their hair differently. That's it. And the fact that we continuously focus on this, it's because once again, this is an opportunity where the right sees that they can enter the discourse and get past people's perhaps assumed bigotry of them. Because if you're going into a discussion and you're like, hey, no, I'm not here to say that trans people shouldn't be allowed to transition. I'm not here to say that. But I am saying that we should really have a careful look at what we're doing, especially for giving, you know, children experimental drugs and all that kind of stuff. We don't really know a lot about what does Lupron do or hormone blockers. We're not entirely sure. It's kind of still, it's up for debate. So I just want to make sure that we understand this is a very, very important issue.
Send.
What do you mean, medically?
Well, that's different.
Medically. Anna, you seem very smart to me, and I think you have common sense.
Yeah, I do have common sense. I think it's a very difficult question to answer, okay? I think that it is a problem when certain states completely ban it because there are instances of, let's say, teenagers who identify as transgender, they're legitimately transgender, and I don't want to cause harm to those people, right? I think it's a decision that should be left between the parents and the doctors. But at the same time, there are certain things going on where I do worry. Like, I don't know if you guys have read about the Tavistock clinic in the UK that's shut down. Wow. And the reason why it shut down is because it just became this system of transitioning minors without really doing the proper protocols to ensure that they're working with people who are legitimately transgender.
Okay, so you're 14 years old. I don't know if you said 14 or 13 years old.
So again, why if we're standing by that rule, this should be between, you know, children, doctors, and their parents, then why do we want to position ourselves in such a way that we are in opposition to the findings of, again, organizations like the Endocrinology Society, who know infinitely more about hormones, the behavior of hormones in humans, what is or is not safe for human beings to take at certain stages in their lives. And if we're going to get to the puberty blockers thing, this is something that is supposed to be used until someone fully decides that they want to begin transitioning by taking, again, that's when you start taking hormones, right? Hormone replacement therapy. And then you stop taking puberty blockers. The idea is that you take puberty blockers temporarily to allow yourself time to be able to make something that is an important decision, one that is going to be done directly with consultation with medical professionals, and to be sure that people aren't, making the wrong decision. There is a lot of stuff and steps in place before this takes place, and the vilification of areas in which the general public does not have complete knowledge only serves the broader narrative of that this is intentionally or perhaps maliciously dangerous to kids. It's not something we discuss at all when it comes to cis kids. FDA approved for cis kids who are going through precocious puberty. No one is on the other side of that debate. No one is saying that this is something that we just desperately need to put a pause on or a halt on. We need to worry about that kind of stuff. But when it comes to trans children, well then, yes, it could be experimental. We don't know everything. Here's some isolated cases in which this actually may have gone too far, and we really need to question what are we doing at the end of the day. Corn Cob Maestro, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
When your mom tells you what do you want to be? You said, I want to go be an actress. She's not going to be a Pachatsats, right? And
Yeah.
you said, I'm going to go be a Barbara Walters. Why don't you go be a journalist? Okay,
Right.
that's exactly what I want to do. And I go, okay. What if your mom doesn't say that to you? What if your mom doesn't put that in your head? What if you go into Hollywood? Maybe your life's going to be a different story today. I don't know what it.
Yeah, maybe having dreams of being a star is different than being trans. And it's actually really insulting to try and just directly correlate the two. You know, this is just a lighter version of what Matt Walsh does with the Walrus children's story. Like, oh, a lot of kids, they have imaginations. You know, they may think that they're a walrus, but they're not. All right, it's just biological facts here, biological certainty.
It's going to be good, bad, or ugly, but it's going to be a different
That's
life.
probably what.
But what I'm saying is it's going to be a very different life. I actually think you would, because you have drive, but it's going to be a different life no matter what direction you would have gone to. But the point I want to make is with this whole concept of even entertaining the thought of it being okay before the age of 18, you know, then that means, like my idea, I have a controversial idea. I would rather have a 15-year-old kid that has a job paying taxes vote than a 28-year-old person who's never had a job, never paid taxes. That person shouldn't vote. So pump
So the unemployed can't vote.
It's not a normal idea that I'm proposing. You have the right to say you're out of your mind. But
The unemployed are not allowed to participate in democracy.
I want to give people the right to vote who earned the right to vote, who have contributed to society, minus those who have disabilities, things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. Or elderly. All I'm talking about is a 15-year-old person should have the right to vote, who is paying taxes, has a W-2 job, has paid $3,000 of taxes, whatever, versus 28-year-old who hasn't. But this concept of saying, yeah, I think my son told me, you know, he's a girl, you know, and we have to do this, and da-da-da-da, and they're crying, getting emotional. I think we have to
push back on this, please.
Be a little less tolerant to stupidity and insanity. If you're 19 years old and you say, like my kids will say, that my son is having this tattoo conversation with me. Here we go. And you know which son it is. He's like, hey, but you know such and such has tattoos. I said, but Michael Jordan didn't have tattoos. He said, that's a good point. I said, Brady doesn't have tattoos. By the way, I hope these guys don't have tattoos.
No, it's not. It's nonsense. What the fuck? Is there a correlation between the tattoos that you have and then your ability to be one of the greatest athletes of all time? Is that what you're trying to imply here?
Place all I know is I've never seen tattoos.
Yeah. You don't know.
Michael could have a tattoo of goat somewhere you're never gonna see.
What?
There's pro athletes who are inked from fucking neck to feet. What are you talking about?
But all I'm saying is these guys are just like, what about this? And what if I want to get it? I'm like, dude, let me just put it to you this way. When you're 18, you can get it. Till then, I'm not going to support you getting a tattoo. After that, do your thing. My goal is to try to encourage you, and as much as I can, to one day.
Cool. So yeah, tattoos and trans people, comparable decisions in life, certainly. Because, you know, sometimes you get a tattoo and then you regret it later, you know, like so it's just like the stretch marks, and it just like it changes the way, you know, if you get like a face of Nixon on your back, it gets distorted as you get older. So just the same things. Like in a lot of these cases, by the way, it is children telling their parents, not the other way around. Children, like, you know, pleading with their parents, saying something's wrong. You know, I don't feel like a girl, or I don't feel like a boy. I'm not happy. I'm depressed. And when you watch or listen to interviews with the parents of children who transitioned, it's almost always that it's just like it is a life-changing experience for them, where they are just a different person. And even, you know, the most, like, Fox News has done interviews with the parents of trans kids, where it was like, I'd rather have you know, an alive son than a dead daughter, because, like, yeah, I noticed immediately the complete change in personality of someone. And it's one of those things where, like, can any of you ghouls for 2 seconds try to put yourself in the headspace of what it would have been like growing up if you were suddenly growing into the wrong gender? Like, I'm a cis dude. I'm incredibly comfortable being a dude. I could not imagine suddenly turning into a woman against my will, and then having to go through puberty, and then having to go through all these changes, and then all of a sudden seeing, like, you know, giant tits growing, and then all of a sudden all this stuff happening, and all, like, that would be horrifying, in addition to everything else that is, like, horrifying to go through during puberty in the best of times. You know, even fucking cis puberty is its own horror show. Like, oh god, I'm finally a man, I sound great now. Like, yeah, but like over and over and over we're hearing the same thing. Well, I mean, when you get a tattoo, obviously you realize not a lot of people, that's a life decision, and then people regret that life decision. So isn't this a life decision that people will inevitably regret? And have you seen that there are people who do regret it? I mean, I don't know if you talked to Ollie London, for example, but Ollie London regretted it. So thereby, we should probably platform those voices and talk about how this entire thing is dangerous. Let's not look at meta studies that conclusively have been showing time and time again, when we look at studies from around the world, different countries, that the regret rate for transitioning, even amongst people who transition at a youth age, is very, very low. Sometimes less than 2% in some studies. Why are we still platforming this? This is so absurd and cruel.
Not do this, right?
Right. I mean, but that's your parental right. Okay, so I think that I get uncomfortable getting in between a parent, their child, and their doctor, right? I actually do.
Oh, sorry. I'll change this. I got it backwards. My apologies. Nope, I did it again. Nope, still doing it. I'm gonna blame ADHD, I will. Yeah.
Believe in parental rights. And so I do have an issue with some of these schools and school districts
Samus Racer, thank you for the
promoting
prime.
policies of keeping parents in the dark when it comes to their child transitioning.
That's in the state of California.
And
sometimes.
yes,
Yeah.
and the reason why I say that, understand,
Yeah.
look, I think that like in the state of Florida, in the legislation that they passed, there are exceptions for kids who might, like if there's reason to believe that their parents are going to be abusive, if they're informed of this, right? There is a carve out in the legislation in Florida to ensure that the teachers have the ability to withhold that information from an abusive parent or abusive parents. I think that's important because there are cases of parents who are abusive and might be awful to their kids, might maybe beat them, might disown them if they find out they're trans. So that's why I think it is important to have protections for those kids. However, at the same time, we've all acknowledged that the suicide rates among transgender people are high. And if I had a child who started identifying as transgender and I was not informed about it, I would lose my mind because I would be concerned that I'm not there to help with my child's mental health.
But those are two different things. So I want you to you to okay.
Oh,
So
you're
are
getting
you saying
outflanked
that
by
a parent
PBD?
should have the right to allow
Those
their
are two
kids to
different things.
transition and change their sex? You're saying that should be the parent's consent.
Yes, but I do think that there should be protocols in place and safeguards in place in the medical industry.
Let's go one step forward.
Yeah, and by the way, let me be clear.
There are.
When we talk about medical transition, I'm not talking about surgery.
I'm talking surgery and taking the hormones and stuff like
Modi Cool, thank you for the 200 biddies. Appreciate you.
Okay, no. Okay, so puberty blockers, I think, should not be like outlawed. Okay, so there's puberty blockers, and then there are the cross-sex hormones.
Pre-18 puberty blockers you're okay with?
I think in instances where there is a proper protocol in place to ensure.
But
I'm not.
so let me
wrap up this.
Why? Did you hear what they're trying to do? Come on, Anna. You're so close. One of us. Come on.
The outcome of these 20, it hasn't been 20 years to see how much these kids are going to have suicide. I think at 14 years old, I get what you're saying. The parent, it's your kids. I would never get involved. I could give a suggestion, but to alter a child's biological makeup in the long run, I just don't.
Here's a question.
The thing with puberty blockers is it depends on how long they're taking it, right? If they're taking it for a long period of time, there are possible side effects that are damaging. And
Again, if you look at the Endocrine Society and their recommendation when it comes to puberty blockers are again used as a pause while people are deciding if they want to begin taking hormone therapy, hormone replacement therapy. At which point, when they go on hormone replacement therapy, they no longer will be taking puberty blockers, and it's something that there is no controversy or debate when cis kids are using it for precocious puberty. It has been shown to be safe and reversible. Yes, it can have effects like anything else you take. Medication has effects. Viagra can fucking kill you. Absolutely. This is why it is being done under the supervision of medical professionals. And yes, there is checks and balances put into place to be able to determine whether or not it is an effective and safe treatment for your child.
Would cause irreparable harm. So I understand where you're coming from. When it comes to the surgeries, though, I'm entirely against the surgery.
Okay, so that's good. So that's good that we have one step. But I want.
Wait, what? So people can't even get top surgery? What about cis women who get breast reduction surgery? I had a friend, one of my close friends in high school, she got breast reduction surgery. She was a cis woman, and it dramatically helped her. She was having a lot of back problems. What are we doing here? Again, we're deciding to pick and choose what healthcare should be available to a minority when that same healthcare is available to cis folk.
I want to ask you this question. So you're Armenian, I'm Armenian. There's another legendary Armenian out there called Jack Kevorkian. I don't know if you know who Jack Kevorkian was.
Dr.
Death.
Oh,
Dr.
was
Suicide,
Armenian?
right?
Okay.
He was Armenian, legendary, right?
Awesome.
They made a movie about him. I think Pacino played or De Niro played. Pacino played him, yeah. So this guy, you know, hey, life is hard. You want to commit suicide? I'll do it for you. Don't worry about it. Life is very hard. So what if we get to a situation where mom and dad consent, son comes, daughter comes saying, life is so freaking hard. I can't do it. I want you.
Comparing that to Dr. Kevorkian, this is so fucked. Like I said, that would be the only appropriate answer to this entire framing. I would be like, this is fucked. I think that's the closest thing I can get to that. This is completely fucked. So if it wasn't clear before, just so everyone knows, the very high rate of reported suicidal ideation amongst trans people is because of societal stigma, because of assholes like this, because of bigots like this who spread this fear-mongering shit that lead to other people who may be well-to-do, but I was just checking out my favorite financial podcast, and apparently they're mutilating children or something. Disgusting. I want to put a stop to that. It's the societal stigma that leads to these children having high rates of anxiety, depression, and yes, contemplating suicide. That is the reason for it. We have to work really hard, being cis folk, to stop this bigotry, to stop spreading this bigotry, and to explain and teach other people that this gender-affirming care, again, is approved by every major medical association in the United States. This is not something, like, the medical community is not having this debate. It's weirdos on the internet. Weirdos on the internet are saying, well, we need to be able to have a debate on this one, okay? Let's slow down. Now, I don't personally have a trans child, and I don't have children myself, but I'm now going to have a very strong opinion on why they shouldn't have health care, the same as everyone else has access to.
To take me to the modern day Jack Kevorkian, okay? And I want you to take my life away. And mom and dad pray on it, and they say, look, if that's what our
According to the American Society of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeries, in 2020, nearly 230,000 cosmetic surgeries, nearly 140,000 non-invasive cosmetic procedures were performed on teens aged 13 to 19. Is there a debate? Is there a debate on thousands of children, hundreds of thousands of teenagers getting cosmetic surgery, getting nose jobs? I mean, hey, that's permanent, you know? You could get another nose job. You can certainly try to do reconstructive surgery afterwards. But I mean, if you're getting, you know, facial grafts and stuff like that, I mean, word. What about plastic surgery to get breast augmentation? Well, what about that? What about cis people who get these kind of procedures? What about a cis man who gets breast reduction surgery because of a condition that he has as a teenager? Because people get that. And they should have access to that.
Kid wants, let's go take him in.
I mean, look, obviously I'd be against that because maybe if I explain where I'm coming from, you can understand my thoughts on this, right? I want to implement policies that cause the least harm to people, right? Transgender teenagers exist, and suicide rates among transgender people, especially if they're not able to feel comfortable in their own bodies, right? That suicide rate is real. And so how do we balance, okay, the concerns of potentially causing damage to kids who aren't actually transgender? Because that exists, right? There are detransitioners. And my heart breaks for them because they were on puberty blockers for a long period of time. It did cause harm to their bodies, irreparable harm. And so I feel bad for them, and I want to minimize the instances of that happening as much as humanly possible. At the same time,
Again, though, but it's one of those things where why are we platforming something that, if you look at meta studies on this, occurs at a very, very small percentage? Like, why should we vilify an entire use of healthcare if it is effectively helping a lot of people, the overwhelming majority of them? If like anywhere between 96 to 98% of people don't end up regretting transitioning, then why is it when we talk about this, it's like it's the 2%, the 2%.
For teenagers who legitimately are transgender, I don't want to cause harm to them by entirely banning a medical process that could be beneficial to them. My point is, I don't believe that it is up to me to decide. I don't believe it's up to anyone in this room to decide what the right course of action is for them. I think it's up to the parents, the doctors, and the individual in question themselves.
Okay, then leave it at that. That should be your talking point. That's what you go in there, and as they try and bait you into all of these culture war aspects of it and try to find wedge points, that's all you have to say. It's like, I believe this should be a conversation between children, their doctors, healthcare providers, and obviously the societies that investigate and determine what is the best possible course of action to take in this case. That's who should be the people determining this. That's it. You don't have to add, but puberty blockers could be potentially harmful, unsafe. Let's look at some, some instances where individuals have regretted it. That's obviously kind of scary. Deeply against any kind of gender affirming care surgery for trans people, specifically, under the age of 18 as well. I mean, that is you adding your own opinion on this topic.
I have a question. It's sort of a macro conversation.
Are you leaving this topic?
No, I'm not leaving this topic whatsoever. I'm actually staying right here. By the way, shout out to Dr. Kavorkian, all the work that he's done with the youth in Asia. That's Booyakasha, with everything that's been going on with that, with the youth in Asia. But to me, and I want to stay here, this isn't a pivot, this is such a ridiculous distraction. What do I mean? Okay, there's so much going on in the world. Okay, we're at $33 trillion in debt.
You've been talking about this intentionally for 18 minutes on your podcast. This was the topic that you've been talking about. We started at the 30-minute mark, and you have been talking about this point after point after point after point. I just want to say, by the way, this whole thing is a distraction. It's distracting us. You are distracting yourselves.
Got runaway inflation, interest rates are to the roof, people can barely make their car payments, mortgages, everything that's going on there, foreclosures. We're on the verge of a regional conflict that can go to World War III. And in America today, we're debating what the fuck is a woman?
No,
what is happening in American society that we're even having this long, elongated discussion where it's poignant and it's very tangible, all right, birthing person, woman. It's like the rest of the world is looking at us and they're laughing.
Yeah, but again, this is something that the scientific community is currently debating, and you're reflecting their discourse, which is just dominating the culture wars. This is something that you just haven't come to terms with. You're not accepting the current findings of where we're at, and so you've made it into your own culture war at the same time. That's all this is, and doing it fucking over and over and over. Why is this distracting us? Why? Let's talk about it for 2 hours on the podcast to make sure it never distracts us again.
That America can't even get their shit together. This beacon of hope, this beacon of light, this shining city on a hill, this amazing situation that we have in America, and we're
we've got all these problems, debt, global conflicts, wars. They're trying to shut down everything for some kind of so-called disease, pandemic. I don't know. It's all nonsense. And at the end of the day, they want to start telling us that there's more than 3 states that matter. What the hell? I can see with my own fucking eyes, bozos. Okay? Water. That's a liquid. Gas. That's a gas. All right? Solids. Boom. 3 states of matter. What the fuck are they trying to teach us at this point? They're distracting us with this bullshit plasma. Trying to distract us from the real important issues that matter.
Having hour-long debates, what is a woman?
Right.
China's laughing at us,
What is a
Russia's
man?
laughing at us, and here we are, very smart people, very informed people, and we're having deep discussions of whether Anna over here is actually a woman or not, or she's a birthing person.
What's your question?
So my question is, why are we so preoccupied with this? Is this not one big distraction? The culture war, the
You're
identity
distracting.
It's a distraction of our own design. Why can't we stop talking about this? A lot of viewers, a lot of super chats asking about, oh God, they won't let us talk about anything else.
From the topic. No.
I'm not distracted.
But you
from
are
the
though.
topic.
You are though.
I'm asking why this is such a
But
big
I don't want
topic.
I don't want to go to that topic. I want to stay on this topic. That's a complete
I want to keep distracting us. Hey, why are you trying to point out that we've got, some would say, a very unhealthy obsession with this topic? No, I want to keep talking about it. I want to keep distracting. Slow down, bro.
different topic. Let us transition away from this. I'm still on this topic. The question we're asking right now is very important. We've gone through trans. She's not for the transition. She's for the medicine pro-hormones. In some cases, then I bring in Kevorkian. Is that something that we should allow parents to do if the kid wants to take their lives because it's hard? She's then saying no. Then it goes down to some people from trans are having true mental issues that they're going through, which is the next thing you said. Fair, I'm with it. But I want to know why. The other day, I have this guy at the, Rob, what's our friend's name that we talked to, the plumber, legendary plumber, Eric Hecker, who's a Raytheon whistleblower. I can't wait for this to come out. I'm telling you, you will be entertained the entire time. But he said something very interesting. He said, you know, what is mental illness? And how long has mental illness been around? He says, you realize if you have heart issues, we can show you have heart issues.
Yeah.
You got a murmur, or you got blood clot.
High blood pressure.
Or you got high blood pressure. There is data to say that. He said, how do we measure bipolar? How do we measure, depression? How do we measure all? And he's going through asking all these questions. And he says, how do we know?
So, by the way, you don't go into a psychiatrist's office and then say, I'm bipolar. And then the psychiatrist is like, okay, here's some meds. That's not the process. So I'll tell you, because I've actually been to a psychiatrist to find out that I had ADHD. They do a lot of screenings. There's a lot of screenings that they do, and there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of questions when it comes to certain categories to find out whether or not you are not, in fact, perhaps bipolar, or perhaps schizophrenic, or perhaps you have a different condition. And then they start to determine, based on the way that you respond to a lot of these questions, to be able to make an assessment. That's the process.
We don't know that. So you go to a doctor. What is actually the test for a doctor to know that you have bipolar ADHD? What's the test? He's just asking you a few questions. Well, yeah. What are you dealing with? What do you go? There is no test. There is no data. Your blood.
It's not just what are you dealing with. Oh, numbers hurt my brain. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, what do you think you have? I'm bipolar. Okay, yeah, checks out. I asked you the question. You answered. Here we are. What do you want in terms of drugs? We got a lot to offer. I have a profit incentive. That's why I'm doing this. So here we go.
Scored this, or you're so I'm sitting there listening to this guy. I'm saying, first of all, I don't, okay, maybe interesting point, but then what has this led to? It's led to a multi-billion-dollar product, Big Pharma. Okay, so how profitable?
There it is. Pretty much just, I'm doing a bit, but sometimes the bits just turn into reality.
Are these transitions? How profitable are these puberty blocker products? By the way, I know you're saying, why are we talking about this? There's other things going on in the world. For people that have kids, this is a major concern to them because their kids are being...
Because you have made them scared as fuck. Yeah. All of these kind of podcasts. It's like, hey, you just got home from work, honey. How was it? It was nice. On my commute, I listened to my favorite financial podcast. It gave me a whole bunch of advice. Also told me that, by the way, if your kid is trying to transition, that apparently is not real or something like that, and that we don't really have any basis for knowledge of this. And then, puberty blockers cause high rates of suicide or something like that. Either way, we got to make sure that we stop this scourge on society.
Fed this bullshit on a daily basis at public schools, and parents are concerned. Very concerned in some markets. I'm not concerned at this point because I've been talking to my kids about this stuff very closely, and we have certain resources. Not everybody has certain resources to put them in public schools. So for me, all I'm going back to is when you were saying the depression, where people are at. If you work with me, like if let's just say, I'm talking about this yesterday. Melva, our nanny, 13 years, she uses the word pobrecito with the kids. Pobrecito. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Like a little poor baby.
Yeah. I'm like, Melva, they're not poor. These kids are not poor. Don't tell them they're poor. Yeah. And Jen will say, poor Brooklyn. I said, babe, Brooklyn is not poor.
She has a cell phone.
Don't She doesn't have a cell phone, but don't put that word in her mouth. Certain words we use, that's the parent's responsibility. You allowed those words to become real, and the parent didn't stop it. Tom, for you with 2 daughters, you're seeing this exchange in this topic. I'll transition because I know Adam wants to talk other topics.
No,
we're going to get
not at all. This is important to discuss.
What is your thoughts when you're hearing Anna and I discuss this?
Well, I have a unique perspective. My wife is a career teacher, educator. She's taught in public schools, LA Unified Public School, as a matter of fact, for 10 years, and she's taught in private schools since. And I have 2 teenage daughters. And so I have a house full of portable reproduction units. And we...
That's not insulting? That's even as a joke? I thought, oh, okay. So that one's funny, right? But if someone wants to use inclusive language to include people other than cis women in discussions, that's deeply insulting. But yeah, joking that women are portable reproduction units. Okay. I get it.
Took me a second, but okay.
I don't know how they'd feel about being called that.
If they're watching, they're pissed.
If anybody has a couch I can sleep on for the next couple of days,
I got
let me know.
you, Tom. I got you.
But in all seriousness, what is happening in schools is kind of dangerous. We've gone to a movement of ratify and separate. It is in the public schools, is ratify what they feel, whatever they feel, and then separate them from parental decisions. It is an intentional, it's a program, it's what the public schools want at high school. We want to ratify what you're saying and separate you from your parents. Whereas mental health experts will tell you, you want to, process and counsel. And that involves bring the parents in, but that's not what the schools want. And so I see it on that side, where I can see schools that are actively, and administrations and public schools that are actively, trying to separate the kids from their parents in the first place. And this is another way they do it, rather than processing and counseling through, and you don't have to come down on the kid, but it's
how do you think you get gender affirming care? What do you think the process involves? Do you think it's magic? Do you think kids say I'm the wrong gender and all of a sudden all these drugs and surgeries appear before them to choose from? There is a process. There's multiple processes.
Processing. You know what? Let's sit down with the counselor.
Comrade Caution, thank you for the 1 year. And Lizzie Nepon, thank you for resubscribing with the Prime. Appreciate both of you.
Let's get you in a safe place. Let's not have your dad turn, what? You want to be what? No, let's turn down the temperature in that room and let's embrace the child. Hey, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Now let's process it and let's counsel through. Because most of the suicides come from isolation. It's the isolation in their own mind, and it's one word.
No, again, this is very incredibly well documented. There's multiple studies on this. The reason for the high rate of trans children specifically experiencing suicidal ideation is because of social stigma. Because of assholes like you who refuse to learn anything. Well, I'm just going to speak on authority on the subject. My appeal to authority is that my wife, portable birthing vessel, teaches in a private school. So I just want to know, this is where they're trying to separate us. And then all of a sudden, it's as if there is no kinds of checks and balances for any of this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, you don't get gender affirming care by summoning it. You have to go through a process through medical professionals. There is tons and tons of gatekeeping in regards to this.
It's hopeless. The word hopeless is what is tied to the majority of the teen suicides. And so how do they feel hopeless? Who is around them helping them feel hopeful, trying to embrace them, trying to process, trying to get to the center of where this is? Well, I've just never had a boyfriend. I've been really depressed. Sometimes they're going down bad decision lines. It's not I've always felt this way since I was 8 years old. No, they're going down some decision flows and other things that are happening socially.
Look, the problem that I have is the assumption that all parents are going to freak out and be super abusive to their kids if they find out that their child might be transgender. I just don't think that's the right mentality to have. I do think that there are some maybe religious fundamentalist parents who could actually freak out. And so again, it is really important to ensure that whatever policy is implemented, that there is consideration for children or for teens who might come from a family like that. However, no one loves these kids more than their parents for the most part.
For sure.
And I just know, look, I don't have my own kids. I have nieces that I'm very, very close with, my brother's daughters. And the idea that anyone in our family would be abusive to these kids if one of them legitimately like identified as transgender is ridiculous. And I think my brother and sister-in-law should have the right.
I mean, that is a beautiful sentiment, and I hope that's the case, but that's just like not a universal truth. And there are lots and lots of queer kids who grow up in abusive families, who have to be put into torturous situations such as conversion therapy, and or are simply just rejected from their household just for existing. That is a reality. That's what a lot of these things are trying to protect children from.
As parents, to be able to...
I think everyone has a right to instruct their kids and try to guide their kids and try to nurture their kids, and for the love of God, hopefully love their kids and give them all the wonderful things in the world. But no one has a right to abuse their children, right?
Be there for their daughters if one of them is going through something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like this preemptive notion that the parents are going to be awful.
I want you to see
I agree
this
with that. And remember, you can go into these public schools and it'll be like, don't tell your parents, they'll freak out. There is an assumption that's at the front of it. I agree with you 100%.
I want you to look at this chart, Tom. U.S. sex reassignment surgery markets. If you
Uh,
guys are looking for great investment, this is fantastic.
That's serious,
okay?
Pat. Serious.
Market. Well, then that's why don't we just fucking abolish all healthcare altogether? Because look at all the money that's made from breast implants. Did you see the statistics I brought up earlier? 230,000 cis American teenagers get cosmetic surgery from the ages of 13 to 18. That includes breast implants, that includes skin grafts, that includes nose jobs. Seems like a lot of profit is going on there. Yeah. What about people who need their appendixes out? What if it isn't cosmetic? What if it's not about gender affirming care? What if it's just fucking a life-saving procedure? Oh, a lot of money in that though. You know, all these kids getting their appendixes out, or it might explode. Well, a likely story at the end of the day. Look at the amount of money made by the appendix removal industry, all right? All appendixes matter. Yeah, I can say this bit now as someone who is sans appendix, you know, and I didn't have to pay anything. Didn't have to pay anything to get my appendix out, and it was inflamed, and it was gonna hurt me. But goddamn, why don't you apply the same logic then to just broadly speaking all healthcare? Well, seems to be a profit motive. Interesting. If only there was something we could do about that. Well, could we talk about Medicare for all, perhaps, a public option so people don't have? No. This is because of big trans and the trans lobby. Look what they're doing here. There's money to be made. That's all I'm saying. And then they convince all these people that they need these things, and then some of them regret it, right? How many? Usually less than 2%. That does seem dramatically lower. How many regret knee surgery? Sometimes 40%. Well, that's a lot of people. Should we vilify that? No, there's no money there. There's no angle. No one's gonna care if we go on a crusade about going after appendix, havers or people who got knee surgery and didn't like it. This is where the money's at, right here. Talking about this, vilifying this.
Fantastic investment.
Michael Burry over here.
Look at these procedures and how it's climbing year by year.
So you're thinking that the increase is really driven by the health industry.
Oh my God! I mean,
interesting.
Look, think of. And by the way, I don't think I would consider as one of the possibilities. I'm not saying this is it. I'm a guy that wants to weigh out and do odds. Right? This is a very profitable business. Like when you think about how much Prozac makes, how much these pharmaceutical companies make, and then, so the business model is this.
So wait, what? So like, there's so many discussions you could be having right now. So, hey, there are instances in which SSRIs can be life-saving to some individuals, especially individuals who experience severe depression, and there is no other alternative for them, right? There's also the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, big pharma, yeah, them. They spend more money on advertising than they do on R&D. So yeah, there's absolutely a problem with all of daytime television in the United States being flooded with constant commercials where they try to say, hey, do you have ennui? Do you have trouble in social situations? Well, guess what? We got tons of drugs you can take. Here you go. Take all these drugs. This is the cure to happiness. So that would be something to discuss. We're talking, and you were talking about this topic. I guess you're transitioning into a completely different one now, about gender affirming care, which again affects a very small percentage of the population who are consistently and constantly vilified by bigots like you.
Guys, let's make $60 billion and we'll pay $3 billion in fines in 10 years. What a great business model. Okay, so let's go make $80 billion and let's set aside 10% for fines. That's going to come back because we're going to screw a lot of people's lives. But we already made $80 billion. So
no, it's not a debate. Like this is just, let's find out how much Anna agrees with us. That's what he even refused to, like, one of his co-hosts was like, it just kind of feels like this whole thing is a distraction from real issues. Like, we haven't really talked about a lot of things that matter. We're still talking about something that, again, affects a very small percentage of the population, if you will, a marginalized community. We're just talking about removing their health care. I'm just saying there's other things we could be talking about. I was like, no, we're going to talk about this, all right? We're getting close here. I'm making progress. Anna's already agreed to a lot of the terms, all right? We're going to keep going until we can get some more. So Dr. Kevorkian.
To put the 10% in a lawsuit that's going to come in 10 years, here's the $8 billion. Guys, very responsible CFO. What a great job you did. And we'll call this $8 billion a marketing expense. It's not a marketing expense. It's a future lawsuit that's going to come that you screwed a lot of people's lives, okay?
Yeah.
So this Pharma thing is not like a hypothetical. There's so many books written on people from Big Pharma that left the industry, were sick of it, and they said, this is really what's going on behind closed doors, and you got to kind of pay attention to it. By the way,
so stop trying to take marginalized communities' healthcare away. Stop trying to vilify them. Stop making up lies. Stop doing like zero research on this topic and just spreading vile filth. And then go after aspects of the pharmaceutical industry that are predatory, that are bad. There are a lot of things you could talk about. There is a lot of fucked up shit that Big Pharma does. Again, you don't use this as a way of trying to say, and that's why I think a percentage of the population shouldn't have access to healthcare.
Very profitable, and typically these guys, if you look at lobbyists, which industry has the biggest lobbyists? Can you pull up the biggest industry of lobbyists? Biggest industry of lobbyists. There's insurance is going to be up there, but you'll see pharma's up there. There you go. Look at the number right there. Pharmaceutical and health product industry has spent the most lobbying over the last 24 years. I think you and I may be on the same page with lobbyists. These guys are going around like getting massive paychecks.
By the way, there has been so many opportunities for Anna to butt in there and then start trying to use this platform, which is a massive platform, right? To start spreading a lot of ideas and start bridging a gap in ways that could be beneficial to leftist causes without having to sacrifice or throw trans people under the bus in the conversation, right? There's a great entry point. Be like, yes, you know what? We do agree that there's a lot of problems with Big Pharma, and I speak out frequently against Big Pharma. And hey, there's a really big problem that they spend more money on advertising than they do on research and development. What about the fact that they take tons of money in public funding and government grants, and then they use that to make life-saving vaccinations and then sell it back to the people without giving people the ability to mass produce it, even though they are the ones who made it? They're going to continue to profit off that. That's fucked up, right? Maybe we should nationalize those industries. Maybe if we nationalize those industries, we could get untold amounts of new beneficial drugs and stuff like that we haven't even had the chance to do, because again, they're spending so much money on advertising rather than research and development. Tons of great talking points. If you, he's already ready for it. He's ready and baiting you into this conversation.
Making all the money in the world, and they're imposing laws.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Right. What a great point, because I was just writing here question marks. Why? Why the push? Why all this? Big Pharma is back. Just great example, because why is the left, all the government pushing it so hard now?
$5.2 billion spent on lobby in the last 24 years. That's freaking insane. $356 million was just in 2021.
And that push is working, Pat. Guess 1 out of 4 high school students in America identifies LGBTQ plus 2, whatever they're at.
Now we're back to being fucked up bigots.
The wave that has been made by the hyper liberal left on this. I think they're surfing the wave, but they are sure.
So it's a woke mind virus. Yeah. Just, exposure to social media is just turning the kids gay. That's what's happening here. Yeah. So let's make one point where it's like, it's pretty wild. The pharmaceutical industry, they spend so much money on lobbying. It's almost as if, the capitalism and corporations, they can inherently corrupt the political process. True. And now what? 1 in 4 kids is identifying as LGBTQ+. So what's going on there? Are they being influenced into becoming queer, and then they're using that to be able to pay the pharmaceutical industry so they can make more money? Have we talked about this?
Exploiting it and lobbying to it, because EPS, earnings per share, is a sexy mistress.
Follow the money. You always say that.
Let's go to the next story. Unless if you have final thoughts, got final thoughts, I'll give it to you. Unless if we'll go to the next story.
Yeah,
California.
the final thing I'll say is I think that our issue with legalized bribery leads to a lot of the distrust and a lot of the, I'm not saying you're engaging in conspiracies, but there's a lot of conspiratorial thinking overall in the country right now, and I think it's mostly driven by the distrust that we have in our institutions. And I think that distrust really comes from the fact that we don't really have politicians that are looking out for us at the moment.
You know who
we
else
have politicians who are they're literally investing in individual stocks after getting briefed in closed-door briefings on various issues around the world and in the country. Then they turn around and they trade stocks based on that information. That's insider trading. You have money in politics. You have these corporations. You have these lobbyists padding the pockets, or the coffers, I should say, of these politicians.
Yeah.
So when you see all of this policy being passed that doesn't actually benefit ordinary Americans, that leads to the anger, that leads to the distrust. And I think it's really at the heart of a lot of the problems we have in this country.
Wait, you mean to tell me Nancy Pelosi didn't make her $150 million by luck?
I don't know. I don't know if you guys know this, but Nancy Pelosi is like a genius when it comes to the markets.
Weird.
I mean, her
husband Paul is
predictive.
All right, so they moved on. Yeah, even in context, that is just fucking disgusting. It's so much worse. And now we're getting into a lot of the same talking points. And all of this, it's simple wedge issues that the right has been successfully trying to use to convince regular people of, well, just so you know, we're not bigoted. We're just trying to say, hey, and I'm fine with people who are adults transitioning if they choose to do that. I mean, hey, live and let live. Anyone can choose to do whatever they want to do, right? I'm just saying that it could be potentially very life-changing and dangerous for children, and also that this could be contributing directly to the high rates of child suicide amongst trans people. I'm just going to put that out there. And also that there could be a financial incentive for the pharmaceutical industry to lobby for this kind of stuff. And also there could be a financial incentive for people to be convinced that they are actually, in fact, queer, which may explain why there's this 1 in 4 suddenly identifying as LGBTQ+. Like, all that shit is just vile, horrendous bigotry with zero pushback. It sucks. It's like, it's bad enough sitting there and being like, well, yeah, it's true. No one uses the term birthing person and hasn't used it on me. But, I mean, do you have to use the N-word to know the N-word is bad? That's all I'm saying. And it's like, you're comparing the use of the N-word by white people towards black people to inclusive language about birthing person. Not even erasing the term woman, but saying that women and people who give birth, because there are people beyond cis women who can give birth. It's just science. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It just keeps sucking. It's shitty to see. It's like everything else. Let me just fill up my water. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Adam Abusala worked on President Biden's 2020 campaign in battleground Michigan.
Yeah, I was working on Arab American engagement, getting people out to vote for Biden.
So committed that his Palestinian American parents put Biden 2020 on his birthday cake that year. But today, as President Biden shows unwavering support for Israel in the wake of Hamas's terror attack, Abusala says he's devastated.
Right now I have family in Palestine who's afraid for their lives, and Biden is doing nothing to stop it. I'm hurt for the betrayal that we feel from Biden, but I also feel like a little bit of guilt for what I've done.
You just listened to part of a Meet the Press report by Shaquille Brewster, who confirms that Arab and Muslim Americans do feel betrayed by President Biden's unequivocal support for Israel and continued support for Israel, even as they indiscriminately murder Gazans who had nothing to do with Hamas's attack on October 7th. Now, this story comes as report after report after report indicates that Biden is burning any goodwill he had left with Arab Americans to the ground. And to make matters even worse, there is a mutiny brewing within the State Department over the administration's stance, with high-ranking Muslim appointees reportedly considering resigning as a result of his decisions lately. And even though Biden has slightly adjusted his rhetoric to acknowledge the humanity of Palestinians a little bit, he still has not condemned Israel's war crimes or demanded a ceasefire, and he's now even downplaying the civilian death toll in Gaza.
Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war. I think we should be incredibly careful. I think not we, the Israelis should be incredibly careful to be sure that they're focusing on going after the folks that are propagating this war against Israel. And it's against their interest when that doesn't happen. But I have no confidence in the number that the Palestinians are using.
Now,
so horrifying. Horrifying. That's all you can say. Quick piece of business before we move on to Candy, because I want to watch the internet comment historian because he makes me laugh. We're going to need a couple more mods. If anyone wants to mod, go into the Serfs Discord. Just shoot a message. The other mods are the ones who choose who becomes mod. Tis not me. Tis a democracy. If you'd like to mod, I know YouTube was asking for a mod or two, and there's some awesome people in there. If you want to, just come to the Serf Discord. It's awesome. This Thursday, we're doing a fundraiser for Palestinian children's relief. We're going to be doing it instead in lieu of the leftist mafia, and it's going to be a call-in show. So if you have opinions and you want to talk to the leftist mafia, you can. We're just setting up a system now to make it as easy for everybody, because I know some people don't like using Discord, so they're trying to set up I think it's called a VoIP or Skype. I don't know. They're figuring it out. But we've already set up a link. So the link is already active. It's going to obviously be going live on Thursday, but the link is available anytime you want by doing !dono. And also shout out to everyone on other sites. I can't mention who they are, but I see you. I'm reading the chat. Y'all are beautiful. Today was a smashing success in every way, shape, or form. We can certainly talk about all of that. I will read a super chat, or I can't say that. I will read Twitch chats and other things that have come in the interim as well. A VoIP or Skype. I know I'm having a boomer moment. I don't use Skype in that way. I too love Discord. I'm a big Discord person. Absolutely, I am. So I'm one of those people. Bear in mind. And thank you, Zate Wace. I will answer that right after Candy, but genuinely really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the show in all ways, shapes, and forms. Bam. It's time for aliens. They're among us.
You people think I wasn't gonna talk about it? You think I wasn't gonna mention the aliens? All these UFOs we got flying above our heads? You thought I had nothing to say about the disclosures? About how you never see no aliens over in China? Well, guess again, you egg-sucking ninnies. I'm gonna tell you everything there is to know about these alien sons of bitches. First things first, they're not aliens at all. They're demons! And they're here to replace God. Oh shit, look, there's one right there. Hey, get the hell out of here. I know what you are. How dare you step into my studio? Get out of here, demon. I spit on you. Be gone, demon. Anyway, I'm not doing this voice as a bit. I have COVID.
Clean up your room.
Null 42. Thank you for the prime.
Well, I know some of you people are excited seeing UFOs and aliens taken more seriously, getting down to the bottom of it. You got this notion in your head that the aliens are going to come down to Earth and solve all our problems with space magic. Well, the bad news is they ain't aliens at all. They're demons in disguise, and they got you right by the balls. And if you don't believe me, well, maybe you'll believe an astrophysicist. Are aliens and UFOs demonic? Astrophysicist reveals why UFO claims aren't what they seem, by CBN News. See, I told you I got all the evidence right here in play.
And I'd love to get your take on this, right? What exactly would you definitively say, and it seemed like you were saying this, that this is essentially the angelic and demonic realm, really the demonic realm that maybe we're dealing with here in a spiritual sense, not a literal alien flying around in space in the physical?
Well, back in the 1960s, the U.S. government commissioned the physicist Alan Hynek to investigate the UFO phenomenon. But what's interesting about these close encounters, it's never beneficial. It's always deleterious. The best you're going to come away from with one of these encounters is...
Who is he to talk about being possessed by demons? He looks like he's halfway through the Raiders of the Lost Ark melting phase.
Is recurring terrifying nightmares. Worst case scenario, you get killed.
He's using a lot of big words here, so let me make it simple for you folks. They're demons.
Because what you notice in these close encounters, it's exclusively experienced by people who have significant involvement in the occult. And when you remove that occult factor, that's the end of the UFO encounter.
I got an idea. Let's sprinkle a couple comments in here. They are no doubt demonic. I found it interesting in the book of Ezekiel how things were described as living creatures and the descriptions are like UFOs. Makes more sense now. Yeah, it does make more sense now. That's right.
These fallen angels can take whatever form they choose.
The occult.
They can appear as your dead grandfather.
Oh my.
They can appear as a flying saucer. They can appear as a leprechaun.
Yes, they are interdimensional demons. He makes plenty of sense. It's demonic for sure.
I have to tell you, as you're describing all of this, you know, my background, one of the things I've worked on is a book on evil and looking at demons and possession.
Oh, it's cool. They got the lead singer from Sugar Ray to interview this guy.
If you want to send an animal, a physical animal, roughly the size of a human being, across interstellar space, number one, you're looking at thousands of years to make the trip.
I was saying the same thing. Aliens, demons. Ever hear of C5? You can literally summon these things, just like the demonic rituals vault.
And so at a minimum, you're going to need a spaceship that's 1,000 kilometers across. And if you really want to be safe about doing it, you're going to need something about the size of our moon.
He mentions you need send spaceship the size of the moon. The moon is man-made.
I'm glad God-fearing men are addressing these issues, and I am redeemed from the UFO culture. Exactly what this man said is true. From experience, I say this. Jesus will walk us through all the lies even when we falter. He will prove the truth.
All right, well, here's proof. I'm going to leave a comment. Pretty sure this guest is an alien, which, by the way, means he is also a demon. Here's my evidence. Just look at him. This guy looks like someone typed intergalactic alien demon acting like a human into an AI image generator, and then this guy walked into the room and they went, oh, fuck, that's even better. He looks like John Malkovich is playing him in real life. Also, whoever this host guy is, he looks like a waitress's worst nightmare. I'll bet he leaves those little fake $1 bills that say the love of Jesus is the only tip you need. I don't know what the hell...
I wonder if he's going to address the people saying that the solution to all this is basically just build the Death Star, which apparently the moon already is. You know, oh yeah, the moon is man-made, and so we should make another moon. Let's just make a couple moon ships.
CBN News is, but looking at these two guys, I'm afraid to know what the N stands for. Big conspiracy salvia over and out. And post. Now, I'm doing this show not to toot my own horn and prove that I'm right once again. No, I'm doing it as a cautionary tale, y'all. I know some of you want to interact with these star-dwelling demonic forces. But don't do it. It's a bad idea. Do the right thing if you come across an alien. Immediately kill it, and then bag it up, film a video of it in your garage like this guy did.
I don't even know if I can laugh at this one. This one seems kind of concerning. What did you wrap up in tinfoil to film this?
Any second now, this video is gonna get good. There you go, folks. That's what a demon looks like.
Injured alien examined by Dr. Jonathan Reed. Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm curious, what do you have a doctorate in? Dr. Jonathan Reed. Is it a self-appointed?
I just want to know what kind of buckshot I used to take this little sucker out.
I don't know if it's the Jonathan Reed who's a professor of music, associate director of choral activities. No, it can't be that one. The Space Repository? Is that it? Dr. Jonathan Reed, academic sessional, School of Psychology and Life Sciences? Can't be that, is it? Canterbury Christ Church University.
I think it was thoughtful to put it in a space blanket. If it's a real video, a little bit of compassion would have been nice.
I don't know if this is real, but it sure gave me the hebagibazell.
The hebagibaz.
There are 1,000-year-old drawings on cave walls clearer than this video. This dude breathing like he Darth Vader behind that camera. What's the deal with the heavy breathing? Someone's getting off. Him breathing heavily in.
Okay, so I have a man claims he killed alien after it, quote, vaporized his dog. A video circulating on YouTube supposedly shows a panicked man examining the body of an alien who he shot after it vaporized his dog with an energy weapon. Dr. Jonathan Reed, who made the video, claims his trouble didn't end there, as the alien came back to life and the government agents stole his good video, leaving only the blurred one circulating YouTube. But is the encounter, which supposedly happened in Washington in 1996, really all it seems? While Reed became a celebrity in the UFO circuit and even published a book about his experience, many UFO fans are not convinced, saying that Dr. Jonathan Reed has refused to allow his evidence to be analyzed. It may be using a false name. UFO Watchdog said, it has since been discovered that, quote, Dr. Jonathan Reed is actually a Seattle, Washington resident named John Bradley Rutter. He's lived in Seattle, Washington his entire life and claims to be on the run from evil government agents, isn't a doctor or a PhD, and has no college degrees. It's because the government took them away. I was getting too close to the truth. But he did manage to make special report, assaulted an alien. In a special report, we're going to discuss Dr. Jonathan Reed and his alleged encounter with an alien. This guy claims he was walking his dog and came across an alien. All right. Let's just believe it.
The camera is more disturbing than the actual alien. Why is this guy breathing so heavenly? All right, well, the show is called Internet Comment Etiquette, so let me show you how to leave a comment on this video. Hey, can you shut the fuck up next time you film one of these? You sound like James Gandolfini doing a TikTok dance. Let me guess, you killed that thing because it ate your inhaler. It's great that you filmed this eye-opening footage, but I would have preferred you not run the Boston Marathon before you start recording. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I saw its eye blinking at 1:37, which means it's still alive and can use the power of the devil to force you to switch genders. If you don't bury this creature immediately under diatomaceous earth, then it might still crawl away and start stocking rainbow flag shirts at the nearest Target. At the end of the day, I only believe things that I see with my own two eyes, which is why I just DM'd SS Sniper Wolf for your home address so I could come see it for myself. Woo! And post! So just to...
Okay, so all the people who are like, I'm so confused, what's the voice? He's clearly doing an Alex Jones. It's a bit.
Recap, all aliens are demons and should be shot on sight. Now, how do I know this? Well, for that information, I just turned to my man Bob Larson, the real exorcist. Nice. UFO aliens are demon spirits. Okay, that's all I need to hear and play.
First of all, aliens aren't from another planet.
Oh, that's good.
They aren't greys, reptilians, or little green men. These beings are shape-shifting demons that take on strange forms to deceive people.
Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a more trustworthy-looking person in your life?
I believe...
And that's when you break.
There are unidentified flying objects that aren't weather balloons or projections of atmospheric conditions. They do defy laws of gravity and thermodynamics, and there are beings who have come from these objects and have terrified people, even beaming them up for sexual probing.
Well, they certainly ain't angels if they're sticking hoo-haws up your dick hole.
Those who claim to have had a close encounter of the third kind speak of being pierced by unwelcome sexual probes, molested, even surgically examined. Such is clearly demonic.
Yeah, he's really hung up on these sex probes, huh?
The question isn't whether there is something out there, but where.
I feel like a lot of this could just be if people worked through and accepted and more people in society embraced other people's kinks, you know, and you know, if we just were more sex positive, we wouldn't need people to make this kind of shit. You know, we're just like, and then probed him again, and then he triple probed him with 14 different probes and different kind of tentacles came out and probed every orifice, if you tell me. Like, you're like, I think you're working through some shit, man.
Whether you have accepted the salvation of Christ on the cross down here.
Down here?
Hi, if aliens are demons, can someone tell me where they come from? And could someone explain where heaven and hell are, please?
Google the Bible. That's my answer to everybody, too. Just Google the Bible. All right, here's my comment to Bob. Yes, it's true that what we have here are spacefaring
Catalytic
interdimensional
gearbox,
craft
thank you.
capable of defying
He looks like
physics and
George
all
Carlin's
known
evil
radar
stepbrother.
systems, using technology far beyond our understanding. Behind those opaque cockpits, sitting among the various sensors and arrays used to pilot the craft, is a little devil guy straight from hell. He's laughing like he's having a good time picking up cows and rednecks and putting mechanical dildos in their orifices. Now, I understand that the guy in this video looks like a crazy homeless person who killed a priest and stole his outfit, but I assure you he's speaking the truth. I just wish heaven had the same technology as these demons so they could protect us, but they don't. They're probably up there drowning in aborted babies thanks to the Democrats, MTV, and college education. Anyway, big ups, Bob. Keep the word flowing. And I swear, if any of these little red goblins beam me up into their spaceship and try to molest me, they're gonna turn to dust when they see the Christ on a cross tramp stamp I got while in prison. And God be with you. All right, well, I think after that family-friendly comment, it's a good time to tell you about today's sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Internet Comment Etiquette. If you didn't already know, Internet Comment Etiquette makes very funny videos. For enjoying the content, you could probably do the bare minimum. Go over there, give a thumbs up, give a subscribe. Oh, help out the channel. It's very, very funny. I've enjoyed it. I know everyone loves his ads.
Rats, MTV, morons on the internet. Twitter. UFO appears on live TV in Peru.
¿Te das cuenta? Está posado en el cerro. Miren, ahí está, oye. ¿Viste? ¿Viste? Ahí está grabado, está grabado. Estamos se nota, de nuevo, se
What
notó el
could that
borde del
possibly
cerro.
be?
Ahí está. Está en el aire.
I can't understand a goddamn thing these people are saying. Oh, thank God someone got an AI to translate it.
We are. It shows. The edge of the hill was noticed.
There it is. There it is.
There it is. It is in the air. Look, 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 look at that. It's not on the hill. It's in the air. It's in the air. It is an object that is in the air, ladies and gentlemen. Do you realize? It is perched on the hill.
Okay, yeah, you see, now it makes sense. People of this world, listen, spread the word. That is a man-made copied ET craft. It is not aliens. This is the U.S. government Black Shadow. They fully understand the anti-gravity propulsion since 1954 with the help of ET. They go to other countries doing illegal activities. No, dickhead, it's demons. And reply. You don't know what you're talking about. You are blind, obviously. Oh, son of a bitch, gonna be like that then, huh? Oh, I'm the blind one? Our government couldn't even do a single 9/11 without everyone getting suspicious. And you want me to believe they've got some dude named Fred flying around in an anti-gravity obelisk doing light shows for Brazilian fishermen? Or does that sound like demons? Do your research and tweet. Now that ought to shut him the hell up. Oh, come on. We are not talking about 9/11. You're getting off topic. Brazilian fishermen. This happened in Peru. Yeah, you obviously don't know what is going on. Get educated first before you post comments. My God. You're literally too stupid to argue with, so here's a page from a coloring book to keep you busy. And attach and tweet. You see, folks, this is what we're up against. Dumb pieces of shit. We have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And it's all the work of the devil.
When people talk about CE5 and making contact, I think that it happens on multiple levels.
Oh, good. Here's Dr. Stephen Greer. He's in bed with these UFO demons. He takes people out to the desert, gets them abducted, calls it CE5. I'll bet the CE stands for contacting evil. And the 5 is just a 5.
What we're doing with CE5 Contact, if those of you who have the app, and if you don't, I suggest you get it, that is a program of using innate human capabilities to experience the conscious field, our own mind, but in a way that allows us to have it expanded and then be able to see or remote view these ET craft or beings.
Yep, naturally. And then everybody wakes up with a sore asshole and the mark of the beast on their colon.
We have the CE5 contact tones that are projected over a radio transmitter.
We're doing
those
fine.
You can get at any store. You just hit the button and play it. And the reason for that is that's our signature, and they know when they hear that there was a CE5 team.
I'm going to download your secret tone and get revenge on these sons of bitches for what they put inside my Uncle Skeeter and tweet. Well, shit. This video may be almost over, but the battle's only begun. I hope after this mountain of evidence I've shown you on today's show, everyone will stop getting so excited about alien evidence on social media. What we really should be focusing on is how to destroy these sons of bitches, these dirty demons. And for that information, we're really going to have to just go back to my man Bob Larson. Hispanic woman from South America possessed by ancient Viking demons. Oh boy, I've been there. And play. Yeah.
How old are you? 19. 19? How do you know about me?
On a serious note, watching these kind of things, like the ones that are done in like not in jest, like the real ones, they really piss me off, because it's just like just the scum of the earth constantly preying on people's, like, you know, very, very valid emotions. If someone's like, yeah, I really miss my mom, and it's like, okay, well, I'm now gonna conjure her. This is your mother. It's like that just fucking scumbags. And you know, I know this is one of the demon exorcists. They're weird as fuck too. Where it's just like, all right, so yeah, there's a demon inside you. Now I'm going to make you go through an incredibly traumatic experience, and obviously you're probably going to believe a lot of it, because the mind can't believe a lot of things. So you're probably going to think that there's a literal demon inside your body, and you're going to have some kind of really horrifying experience as I excise it from you. You know, it really pisses me off.
Well, I was looking for deliverance videos.
Why?
And when I go like intimately with God, in the presence of God in my room, I just feel like I start screaming. And
well, so when you try to pray and get close to the Lord, you start screaming.
Demons are very real, but Bob Larson is a showman. Hard to tell if this is an act or not. I know, it's impossible to tell.
That's an interesting posture. It's almost like a military posture. I think we have a soldier here. I want to talk to the soldier.
Boy, he sure likes touching her. Am I the only one who watches this but thinks maybe I'm gonna be possessed too? You're not the only one.
He's the god of Iceland, Aiden. You're pronouncing it Aiden in Icelandic. It's Odin. Odin and I know each other very well. Get up, Odin! I want to know who's with you.
That's not the old pronunciation. The old Norse word for Odin is this, and pronounced roughly Othin. Shut up, nerd, and reply. Okay, this looks real, so I have a question for this exorcist he can answer. Has any of the exorcism you had done on someone left you so haunted in fear after it? Yes! I'm having a goosebumps. Best show. Wish I was there.
Get up, spirit. Get up, spirit. What's your name, spirit? Here comes the sword.
Well, listen, I don't know much about exorcisms and whatnot, but I know that this is all real.
Angels, the Lord. So we go.
We go!
Now! Say now!
Now!
Two!
Norse religion is pagan, not Christian. No demons in paganism. Why are you trying to apply logic to a clearly real situation that's actually happening in the real world? Look, you can see with your eyes, can't you?
Come on, Jesus! Come on, help me get this thing out! Go!
Okay, now I will go to church. Hey, that's just good internet common etiquette, folks. And Bob's got a great community here. I'm happy to be a part of it. Hey, can anyone tell me how to get my toddler to stop hyper-focusing on this channel? He used to watch nothing but Baby Shark, but now he's moved on to Bob Larson for some reason. He throws a complete fit whenever I take the tablet away before the exorcism's finished. The only way he'll eat his food is if I smack him with a Bible first. He's a little troublemaker, too. He likes to play weird tones out of his Fisher-Price keyboard that summon red orbs into our living room. One time I caught him floating 5 feet in the air shooting bugs out of his fingertips. Anyway, my only idea is to wear a Bob Larson mask and scare the shit out of him every night for a month. That way he'll get so traumatized he'll never want to watch this guy again. Let me know if you have any suggestions in the replies, and God be with you. Or else, and post! So there you have it, folks. No more confusion as to whatever these UFO, UAP, Tic Tacs thing. No more confusion. They're all demons. All of them. Especially that one. Oh, I see you, you son of a bitch. I got you this time. Yeah. Boom, there we go. One demon down. Now, where is my blanket?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. All right, first things first. Everybody go subscribe to Internet Comment Etiquette. He's very, very funny. I want to give a big shout out to Zeitways, I believe that's how you pronounce that, with the message, unsuccessfully searched for episode 0 you mentioned last time at the Leftist Mafia when I asked about Vosh as a future guest. Where can I find it? The very first episode of Leftist Mafia? You would have to search for, it wasn't called the Leftist Mafia back then. That was before the Leftist Mafia had a name. It was the election special. So whenever that election took place, I was just calling a bunch of people, and then a whole bunch of people who showed up, and then Vosh ended up dropping in drunk as fuck. He was absolutely shit-faced. I don't think I've ever seen him that drunk before, but that's when that episode took place. But thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And also thank you to everyone who was watching live on yet another channel. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but it was an absolute and amazing success. It was really, really cool. I was reading your chats and y'all were awesome and everyone was having a great time. And there was a couple of hardcore trolls, but yeah, they were being trolly, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's gonna be a thing from now on. We're going to be in all corners of the internet. We're going to go to DLive and Odyssey and Slurm and maybe YouTube and Facebook and maybe not X. That site is filled with Nazis. But yeah. Great success. Anyways, I love you all. You're valid. I'll see you tomorrow. And go say hi to Ariana Jasmine because she's awesome and does great work. And yeah, I'll see you all. Bye, everybody. Goodbye.